Okay, we can get started. When speaking, please turn your microphones on. I'd like to call the August 28th, 2023 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission to order. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme is excused and absent. Mr. Screbutenis is excused and absent. Mr. Khan.
Here.
Mr. McPartlin.
Here.
Mr. Garpino.
Here.
Ms. Gold.
Present.
Ms. Strang.
Here.
Mr. Drescher.
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. Okay, we have the minutes from the August 14th, 2023 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. DiArpino for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Strang. Discussion? Just have one comment brought to my attention. I think we can just do a friendly amendment on line 128, commission business. Just after commission business, we just need to add the words like there was no discussion, just so it doesn't look like something was missing. Thank you, Mr. DiArpino, for pointing that out. But I think we can do that. So simple. All right. Any other changes or corrections to the minutes of August 14th, 2023? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the minutes from August 14th, 2023 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, the minutes are approved. We have no public hearings, so we'll move right to privilege of the floor tonight. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters in the town of Niskayuna, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to what you have to say. Thank you.
I have some things to distribute. Can I approach and just
Sure.
distribute?
You can
Okay,
go to
good.
Laura and she can pass them down if there's,
Okay, come to Laura. I think I have like 8 of them, and I think you have this, Laura. Okay. Because it was emailed to you. Is this on? Can you hear me?
I
Is
meant to
this
pull a
on?
little bit forward, but it should be on. The light was on, right?
Hello?
Yep.
Okay. My name's Natalie Tiberio. I reside at 8 Seneca Road, Niskayuna. I've resided in the township of Niskayuna for 49 years. I just want to address a couple of things. I'd like to address many concerns regarding this proposed project on River Road and Seneca Road. I'm providing each of you with recent meeting notes that several Seneca Manor residents had with the town and school district regarding current drainage problems. One is due to the work performed several years ago on the girls' softball field, and the second is the school's construction project at Iroquois. There have been 5 meetings in total, 2 that the school has attended. A brief summary is the school watershed flows from over 150 acres. All of this drains onto the east side of my property, which is at the low point. The town built a culvert many years ago to deal with the watershed. The school has completed their underground drainage construction, and we have had an increase in water flows and pressure. One incident has been caught on video, an email to Laura Robertson, Jamie Piccioni, Matt Yetto, Ray Smith, and the superintendent of Niskayuna Schools. We have 2 videos in total. The water amount and force was dangerous, to say the least, and we've never experienced this before. We've resided on the property when Sandy took place, and this never happened, this kind of water. We currently are still receiving more water than usual and not less. The drainage continues onto Mr. Lucie's property, and the current drainage is very poor on his property. This property also has a large area of federal wetlands. Building on Seneca with 3 additional houses on River Road would add to an already negative situation of current drainage leading under River Road and through our property. To my knowledge, the county has not been involved, and perhaps they should be. It is my opinion the town needs to place a pause on any requested submissions for major and minor subdivisions. Also, a pause on change in zoning and most variance requests until a comprehensive town plan is developed. A plan should include a study on current drainage problems within the township. Perhaps we should not be adding residences to areas with poor drainage. I would like to see the town work towards this, and it is my opinion it is needed. My last point regarding adding more houses is we currently have a student overpopulation in Rosendale School District area. The additions to our current schools are expensive and drive up school taxes. We need to better understand the benefits versus the added costs associated with more students that additional housing tends to bring. Please read over the packet I have provided, as it will provide more information about what has been happening with the school, town, and residents of Seneca Manor. A solution to our problem has not been finalized, so adding 3 additional homes to our current problem makes no sense, in my opinion, and is not the responsible thing to do. I did take a look at the plot plan, and I just want to make one notation. The current road, Seneca Road, the current construction of it and the design would not meet current standards. The drainage is poor and water flows over the property at a low spot. Adding 1 additional house with a driveway onto Seneca is just more drainage adding onto the road that is not up to the standards that it should be. So that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, thank
And
you.
hopefully you will read the packet and get more
No,
clarification.
appreciate providing that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to be heard regarding privilege of the floor, regarding any planning and zoning matters? Oh. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Mine is very brief. My name is Charles Horowitz. I live at 1223 Ruffner Road. I've spoken here before. The last time I was here, I mentioned with the state environmental quality review process, my concern that the evaluation would be done on a particular day or week or time of the year that's not representative of the whole year. Since I had already made that point, I wasn't planning on coming here and saying it again tonight, except when I looked at the agenda and the minutes and I saw the pictures of the water on Rowell Road, I thought I have to come back here and emphasize that point, because you don't need to have more than 1 flood in the year to kind of wreck everything. So this report has to be representative of the whole year, not just of a particular point in time. And I just want to emphasize how important I think that is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Glenn Foreman. I live at 1900 Union Street for 38 years. You've got me beat over here. Let's see. I'm going to be brief. Leslie and I have been working on this. She came out to visit, I think, and maybe walked around the property. Laura has been very responsible and responsive to my questions. But we're going a bit around in circles on what it means to have right of way onto the crosstown highway. So I guess Plan B that I know Leslie doesn't want, which, you know, an unattractive strip, was introduced at the first time I approached, and it came up a little bit in the second time I was here discussing things. My only question is, you know, how wide is a strip? 2 feet, 10 feet? Matt's, you know, maybe Matt, my neighbor, may be taking a different direction if we don't get this resolved. So I just wanted to try to better understand what it means to have a through lot without a driveway. When it started, it was any possibility of a driveway makes it a through lot. Now it's the lack of the ability to place a driveway on a road does not determine frontage. And I can't resolve those two. They seem to be in conflict. Plus, I found the deed from the New York State appropriation that was made without right of access by adjacent parcels. So I think probably it applies to the whole street, but at least I have my former owner's deed that says, you know, without right of way, without access to Route 7. I want to thank you for your time. You guys have all been great and very helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Who should I ask about the 2 to 10 foot strip?
Well, I think that it's not on the agenda for tonight.
I'll come back with another plan.
So what we need to do, you know, or have a meeting so you don't, you know, invest in another plan, one or the other. You know, Ms. Golds talked to you, but if you want to come into the office, we could sit down before you do that.
That'd be perfect. Thank you very much,
Okay.
everyone.
Set up an appointment through Laura or Mr. Henry, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wishing to be heard during privilege of the floor? Do we have anybody online, Laura, or any communications, emails?
I didn't receive any emails and there's no one online.
Okay, I'll make it last call then. Anybody? All right, hearing or seeing no one for privilege of the floor, we'll close privilege of the floor. We have no unfinished business and no new business tonight. So we'll move right to discussion items. First up being 2861 Troy Schenectady Road, and that's the Brookdale Senior Living. And that's an application to close out some storage pods that were on site for a 10 by 12 shed. Mr. Sola is here tonight or online? Do we have the applicant tonight? No, Mr. Laflamme is a project lead, but he couldn't make it due to a family situation. Do we have a representative of Brookdale at all? If not, we'll just have some discussion.
Not online.
Okay, so my understanding from looking at the agenda statement is that Mr. Laflamme walked the site with the applicant. We're some concerns about the quality of the proposed shed. Basically, it was a steel bolt-together unit, and a suggestion was made to the applicant to purchase a similar shed from, you know, one of the local shed manufacturers, a wooden one that would be in harmony with the original building and located over near the dumpster so that it could act as a shield to the dumpster, which all sounds good, but, you know, obviously need to hear from the applicant whether they agree and are willing to take that path or not. So that's kind of where we stand. Is there any other information, Mr. Henry, that you might have, or Ms. Robertson?
No, I think that was a good summary.
All right, so I think we're going to have to, you know, contact the applicant, reach out to them. Maybe we could send an email, Mr. Henry, and ask him if he's in agreement with the recommendations and, you know, where he stands, so we know how to go forward with this. I don't know what else we can do, right?
Yeah, I know he missed the last meeting because of health reasons.
Yep.
So that may be an issue tonight, but we'll reach back out to him.
Yep, it seems reasonable. There's, I think, and also a comment about having a floor. You know, some of them don't have a floor. If it doesn't have a floor, if they're going to, you know, put it on a cement pad and bolt it down, it doesn't need to have a floor, just as long as it, you know, it looks a little bit more in harmony with the building versus a steel shed that was proposed, okay? And I'm sure you can watch the meeting and get those comments. All right, we'll move on since we don't have the applicant or the project lead here tonight for this project. Next up is 2837 Aqueduct Road. That's the River's Ledge. And we're working on the apartment building, the mixed-use building, and the garages. And we have Mr. Pafundi representing the applicant here.
Hey, everyone. So just a little catch up from the last time we were here. We were pending some information to come in from the Army Corps of Engineers and DEC with concurrence of permits. We've received both. We received our permit for the stream mitigation work over at the animal shelter in Rexford. We received our permits with Army Corps and DEC as well for the property that the proposal is residing on. And we also adjusted all the architectural drawings with the comments from the board, to my knowledge, and site plans as well. So we wanted to get back in front of the board, go over not only the timeline of what we've accomplished to date with the regulatory agencies, but as well as all the updates that we made on the drawings and renderings to see if we can conclude if we met the recommendations of and opinions of the board.
Okay, could you hold one sec? I see Mr. Laflamme, you're going to be able to stick around with us? If you are,
I don't have anything with me.
You can take your seat, though. I think you need to since you're here. All right. So thank you, Mr. Drescher, for sitting in. Appreciate it. And your name tag's right down there also. I'm going to grab that. Sorry, Mr. Profundi. Warm the seat up. There we go. So I think one way we could start off is, well, actually, Mr. Laflamme and Mr. Khan's are project leads, so I'll let them go ahead and ask the questions and go over the items. How's that?
Yeah, so I mean, you did receive the DEC permit, so the key thing now we're looking for is a decision, right, for the final approval on the building,
Yes.
right? And the biggest thing that we had in the recent past was there'll be outdoor garages. I saw that you had incorporated some of the recommendations, especially from the ARB.
Yes.
Mr. Clark did actually identify a few things. I don't know if you saw it in our agenda that are still considered open items. Were you able to take a look at those?
Yeah, and we could go over those quickly, but I
Right.
believe we still meet them. Maybe I just have to point them out.
Right.
Yep.
So I mean, if you'd like to go ahead and, point out exactly where we're at and, exactly, what we're ready to have you asked to do, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, if you want, I'll go down them. First one was regarding an outdoor seating dining area, possibly between the senior center building and the River Run Drive.
Yeah, and I guess my thing is Brett's here with me today as well, is we can just make a call out on the plans on that. We anticipate doing that with, we've already locked up a restaurant operator for the coffee shop. We were bringing the same operator that runs J Street Coffee, Buds on J in Schenectady. He did Buds on the Hudson with us at Starbuck Island, and he's going to do a diner, like a retro themed diner that he's interested in called Sally's there.
Oh, great.
Kind
So
of
you
like a
basically
chromed out
note on
diner
the
look.
drawing, the area that would have.
Yeah, and I would just like to, instead of diving into the inner detail, if it's okay with the board, just to do a call out, I would just like to kind of get his 2 cents on it a little bit. And even if I have to bring it back in front of the board.
Yeah, we can always we can do a condition there that just says, when you decide with the person that's going to run the facility, what the needs are, you can always come back to touch base with those or something like that.
That'd be great.
All right.
Yep.
Next one was explore transit opportunities, obviously a bus stop on the premises and whether there was any opportunity there.
Yeah, so we're showing the bus stop. It's probably hard to see on the site plan, but. So this is our bus stop location right here on the projector screen. But we have talked very entry level with CDTA. We are showing a shoulder widening there. And we just have to talk more with CDTA. And I would hope if Laura can help, a lot of the time it helps with the community, with the local planning to help in those efforts. But we would be able to add a bus stop there on the city line. Yep.
Okay, that's nice. And there's a concrete sidewalk that goes right out to there.
Right out to there, and it connects to the park access as well.
Again, something that if we can't, finalize it, maybe we can also condition if you need to keep moving in order to get.
That would be
shovels in the ground.
great. Yeah, so we're fully committed. We try to make any opportunity with CDTA for the bus line at any of our properties. Sometimes it's either a restriction with them, or if planning can help us, I believe there's a great use for it down in that corridor with the park and everything as well.
Next was break up the sea of asphalt around the senior center building.
So we added some snow or some curb islands there. We're already catching slack from our facilities and maintenance people because they're like a snowplow nightmare.
Yep.
But
Well, I was looking at that. I was thinking, you got, was it 68, I believe, right? Parking spaces and 55 garages. So there's 55 units. So you don't need to have 68 potentially, right?
correct.
So what if you were to take those two little islands you have there? Yep, and get rid of those and remove, like, say, 8 parking spaces between and put one large, island with some landscaping in there. Would that,
So what we were trying to do too is sometimes the diners right now only needs to be about 3,000 square feet. We were proposing in our current architecturals, I think somewhere in the range of 5,000, 4 or 5,000. We were looking at doing an ice cream parlor there as well, which we thought had a lot of synergy with the park and the bike trail. But I just would worry about eliminating too many stalls just because of the commercial component. It ends up creating a lot of issues with the residents that are ultimately paying to be there. I ran into that issue at other properties. Would it be okay if I doubled the parking? You know, right now it's taking up one stall, is 2 stalls, something that would break up the front of the building.
To double the green space.
Double, yeah, so take a single stall curb island.
And
If
make
I
it a
made it a double, we'd lose 2 more stalls,
Yeah, I mean, that's all, yeah, whatever you
just to
think.
add some tree growth in there.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I just ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just wondering, is the diner and/or ice cream place going to be open to the residents only, or? to the
No, for
public?
the public.
Then I think you need the extra parking.
Yeah, so our engineer, like Brett, had done an exercise too. We believe we have a pretty good commercial component parking ratio right now. But yes, it would be fully open for the public.
I mean, I'm coming actually from the same perspective on number 3 with the Sea of Asphalt. I think if this place is going to be attracting. Sorry, I think if this place is going to be attracting just members of the public, right? We don't want to run into parking issues down the road, right? I think people are going to come there and park to get into the bike path. They're going to come there to do a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, there is,
Right.
which you're probably not including, the public parking area across the street.
There
You
is.
don't include that in your 68, right?
No,
Yeah. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 8 parking spaces for the public across the street too.
But we know people like to park close.
100%, yes. So like those parking spaces would serve somebody like parking there, you know, driving with their bike rack, parking there, biking up and down the path, and then maybe going to the ice cream
Yeah.
parlor at the way back. They're not going to serve somebody who's like just going to get coffee.
yeah, and this is full service. So I know originally I've always spoke to the board about it being a coffee shop. It's turning more into a diner, right? They're going to be like short service breakfast plates, stuff of that nature. And he does a phenomenal job at it. We've used him before. I'm sure a lot of you have eaten at Bud's on Jay in Schenectady. Does a pretty good job, and I think it'll bring in definitely some people locally as well.
Since you might be getting local traffic in there, and then so circling back to that sidewalk that leads to the bus, are you gonna have any like sort of signage or any like plans for something to help with people trying to cross the sidewalk with, you know, it looks like cars are gonna be coming off Aqueduct Road there?
Yeah, so our property management, I can add that stuff in there. I always like to kind of just see what people's reaction are when we start rolling out the property and stabilizing it slowly. But our property management usually does an on-site wayfinding package that's not included on the drawings. Like if you drive through phase 1, we'd put a ton of directional signage in to kind of see how people reacted to our traffic patterns and get them around the property accordingly, which I would imagine we'll do the same thing here as
I mean, the
well.
important thing is you have a crosswalk.
Yes,
right, that
Yeah.
connects the sidewalk going to the property to the bus stop. So I think whatever additional, you know, directional signage is there would be helpful. But the important thing is, you know, at least the crosswalk and safe conveyance. So I mean, coming back to number 3, I'm a little bit, I don't usually end up in this position, but I'm a little bit 50-50 on whether we want to, you know, I would like the idea of extending the island so you can get tree growth. But by the same token, you know, how valuable are 2 parking spots for,
I'm okay either way.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing for me here is that this is going to be a combination now of public and residents, right? That'll be utilizing that space, right? Or, you know, residents, guests, et cetera. And you really don't ever want, you know, a constrained parking situation to develop.
Yeah, I want to keep the proposed parking.
And-
I
and-
think it'll be needed.
And just to clarify, Chuck, there's a buffer between Aqueduct Road and that parking space that drivers by wouldn't even see the asphalt.
No.
Yeah, there's a grade break. Like if you look at the one
Right, there's a
architectural,
grade break as well.
there's a grade break there, and you can kind of look at the landscape drawings that are on the screen right now that
Yeah.
Laura just pulled up. This is a great representation too of, you can see those 2 leading trees that kind of protrude out towards the building. Those are where the two curb islands are. But we do have some plantings going in between us and the road as well.
But there won't be a natural buffer.
No
Like,
natural.
No natural buffer. Like everything is going to need to be taken down to put this parking lot in.
And then
And
so
then
the
they'll add
buffer that's
trees
there,
back.
we'll need to start from scratch.
There's not going to
Landscaping
be
from
any
scratch.
buffer.
It's a substantial fill in there. Obviously, it was the low point off to the county property when we had bought it from the county. Most of the original tree growth that will be existing will be on the part that we did not disturb because we couldn't mitigate the property and
To the
from the
east.
original 100-unit design. So everything off to the right will be for pretty much forever wild.
Yeah, which is nice. But I think you guys have to picture that this building is basically going to be on the road and the parking is going to be very close to the road and visible.
You think it will be visible even with the landscaping matured?
I mean, when the landscaping matures, it'll be helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's still going to be visible. It's going to be noticeable. It's not going to be hidden at all.
But I don't know if a few spots is going to make a difference. But
No,
a
so I
couple
just pulled it
trees
up. There actually are trees. He's showing trees
on those.
He's showing trees in these islands already.
Okay.
He's got, I think, probably red maples in here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I struggled with this one was that to break up the cement, anything would be incremental at best, right? And I'm not sure if incremental carries the value here, especially, we know that this place is going to look, when that greenery comes in 15 years, it's going to look very different from how it's going to look for the first decade, right? But I think, it's the plan that we'd have to go with. Definitely that buffer is necessary, and the time it's going to take to grow it in is just what we'll have to accept.
And the covered parking was such a big, request from our end, and
Yeah.
and that's being addressed in this design. Well, and it's on the other side of the building, so people are looking at storefront, nice laid out apartment complex versus the back of a garage.
Right.
So I think I'm favoring I like the idea of more green space, absolutely. I just don't know if these attempts are going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah, and from the history of the PDD, we've almost doubled our green space from the original proposal. I mean, we've digested the original proposal in
It's more the
half.
concentration of where it is, but
Correct,
I get it.
yes.
Chuck, I just have a quick question, if we could back up to the bus stop again. And maybe I'm not reading this correctly. Is there a cutout that the bus actually pulls into?
Yeah, it's a
Because-
shoulder widening.
My experience with CDTA is they don't want the cutouts anymore. They want the traffic stopped because it's too difficult for the buses to pull back out into traffic because no one's going to give them a chance for that. I think under the circumstances, since the age group is, a little bit older, I think I would hope that there would be some consideration that way. But I don't know if you've had any experience with that at all. I've seen them just blatantly say, no, we're not using the cutout any longer.
I haven't done a permitting on the development side in a while with them. We do some of their public works projects with our Louisi Brothers division. But we more or less just showed this as a placeholder. And that's why I think, to be transparent with the board, I think a contingent approval or of some sort that kind of says, hey, you're going to go through CDTA permitting and, comment periods as well. This is far from a preliminary design with them. It's kind of just a placeholder right now until they give us more of a comment period.
I
and a
would
design
hope they
coordinator.
give you the cutout because I'm all for that.
It's definitely safer, I believe, to have a
Definitely.
pull off.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, the next item was entrances and exits that are conducive to walking to the covered parking. So we talked about out the back door having some kind of an awning so they could offload their groceries or whatever.
So right now, what is shown on the site plan and proposed in the building elevations is just what is required per building code for covered ADA access, right? I believe, Dave, you could probably steer me in the right direction, but it's 4-foot projection or 5-foot projection per code. We have that required for those main corridor entrances, but we have not proposed like a hotel style valet cover or anything like that. And I believe that it would take away from the architecture of the building.
Okay,
So you can
Well-
see some of these overhangs.
Oops, sorry.
I think it could be done so it's not a huge negative impact. And, original plan was for the garages to be down
Yes, below grade.
below grade where people would have access from within the building. You're talking, this is for seniors. I think you need to do something to give them safe passage.
So what we did do thus far is you have the immediate pull off the back of the building where we've added the centralized ADA corridor that we worked with the board. What we do provide in the art corridors is like a small, they're small red shopping carts for the residents to unload the car, bring it into the building, and then they bring it up through the elevator in the ADA corridor within the building. So those are always available in a widened corridor. So that is the old design. I believe we sent an updated one.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the packet then.
Yeah, it was sent off, but we did add that centralized ADA corridor off the back of the building as requested. And we widened that corridor, I believe, to 10 feet wide, if I'm recalling correctly. And that's because it provides an ease of moving, but also those shopping carts as well on the side of the hallway for the residents to use. And we haven't had a concern at our senior building in Green Island with a covered, like, I always reference it to like a hotel valet, something like that.
Were you discussing a cover for drop-off pickup only or to cross over to the garage to get to the car in the winter without as much snow falling on, or
We discussed just a drop-off pickup.
just a
Yeah,
drop-off
not
pickup?
a complete
Yeah.
walkway. Yeah.
And no matter what, they're going to always be parking their cars most of the time in the garage. So I just feel like the request of the covered parking, I just don't see it being we know our tenants the best. We try to manicure a product that's best for them. I don't really see as much benefit in it as one would lead to believe, especially with how our parking garages are spread out in the back. You're still going to have to walk from your garage to the building. And that's where those shopping carts come into play. You're really unloading your groceries in your garage or at the drop-off point at the door if somebody's bringing them to you. And then you're bringing them across the street into your unit.
I'm trying to follow that. Are you planning on people going and getting a car from indoors and going back to their car? And
Yeah, so you'd park your car in your garage, you go get the shopping cart, and that's what they do at Starbuck Island. Then they go to the shop with the shopping cart to their car, they unload, and then they bring it back into their unit. So it's not like a valet grocery drop off, it's more you're just unloading in your garage space.
People are more apt to buy the collectible ones and load them up and bring them in
Well,
because you're making it more extra trips.
Right.
And
I'm sorry, I mean, from a process point of view, right, I think that's a risk that the developer and owner has taken on by going to outdoor garages.
well, it
Right.
just bothers me that this is supposed to be for the seniors and the people who would benefit from most and probably most need the underground garages within their building aren't getting them. And then we're not making the best arrangements for them to bring stuff in, whether it be groceries or other merchandise. It's kind of galling.
Understood.
Would you consider striping one of the parking spaces near that entrance?
That was like a drop
Like a 15-minute drop off or
off
something?
only parking space.
So there is no parking spaces along the back of the building.
Right,
We could do a 15-minute drop off in the front of the building.
like in the corner one?
Yes.
So it's an N1 that's.
We have an abundance of ADA, like well above code. I don't know if you remember what that count is, Brett, putting you on the spot, but we have, I think, quadruple the amount of ADA stalls as necessary by code. So we could take one of those and also make that a 15-minute offload spot.
I think that's a really good idea.
I think it's helpful.
So let's talk about that. It would be in the front of the building?
Sounds
Not-
like he can put them in two different places, right?
I could put them in the front of the building and I could even do like a parallel stall off the back of the building, which again, it's not really a stall, it's just a drop off point, and I don't think it would really hinder anybody getting into their garage. And if so, it'd just be for a few minutes. I can point that out. So maybe center of the building here and maybe just a parallel spot here as well off the back access.
And there's entrances on both sides.
There's entrances on both sides, and our main entrance is, essentially is on the L shape of the building. So the way our new architecturals are, is you come into our leasing office area right here, our amenities and everything are right here. We have the commercial component here, the units line up, going up down the hall, and then we have amenity spaces centralized as well for like a fitness center. There's a clubhouse upstairs that has a slew of different things. We're doing a small private room for concierge doctors to come in if they needed that access. We have a hair salon space that's going in where the seniors will be able to get haircuts once a week by a hairdresser that we have that's renting space from us commercially in Green Island. So she's committed to coming down and cutting hair by appointment 1 day a week at the senior complex. We got not for profit, but like a small little casino area as well that they can use. You know, don't need tokens or anything, just games and stuff that they can play. We have a card game area as well, and our typical clubhouse amenities like our pool table, ping pong, you know, the rest or the kitchenette for if they wanted to have like a Super Bowl party or any relatives over for a larger gathering. So a slew of amenities, all low pack gym equipment. And then they still have access to all the amenities in phase one as well. Our pool, as well as all the pickleball course that we put in, and our fitness building, rec building, where there's a golf simulator that we've added and a slew of other different amenities.
I'm sorry, Chuck, could you trace for me where, just pick any arbitrary garage, how does this person walk from their garage to get into the building?
So even the furthest garage, right? If you were here, you'd walk in and you could go into
Okay.
one of these common corridors. Off the back here, you can, if you're centralized, you go here, or you could come to our center corridor.
Right, yeah, so-
I recommended.
Do we have a drawing with that center corridor detail in the
Yeah,
package?
so I just actually looked through my email, Chuck, and the only thing I see that was sent was the renderings from the bike path and the updated site plan. So if you could resend the interior drawings, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I can get those sent over.
Yeah, in fact, wasn't that one of our open notes?
It was on the one that I sent over. Clark, you may have it as well.
No, we did not receive that,
Yeah.
and you're correct, Mr. Khan, that was on one of the open items.
Yeah.
It was the one, it was in the packet with the updated architectural elevations.
Yeah, in that packet with the senior apartment Rivers Ledge garage rendering package, it's only 2 pages. Oh, it's 3.
Yeah, I don't believe it was included, Joe.
Yeah, I just double checked everything you sent us.
Okay.
Yeah, there were 2 main emails, right?
Yeah, there were
I'm having a problem downloading one because I'm not on the.
No, because
Wi-Fi.
one of them's huge, because one of them's the site plan.
Yeah.
But all of the new documents are in the packet.
So anyway, I think it is, I think fundamentally item 4 on the, on our checklist of open items, right? I think, you know, we do need to see what the inside hallway looks like, et cetera.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have that updated. Essentially, it was a comment from the last meeting where you wanted that centralized center corridor.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and the last item was include setback dimensions for the proposed garages relative to the property lines. I don't know if it's in the latest drawing package or not.
Brett, do you know if the setbacks are in the latest drawing package to the garages? Or was that covered under the minimum distance that we had in the original PDD? All right.
But they are within.
They were within, I believe, the approvals of our original PDD. Yeah.
All right, yeah, but it'd be good to call that out specifically.
And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, the only thing that we need to discuss is just the garage elevation and suggestions from the ARB regarding the roof line.
And you have those renderings,
Yep, we
right,
have
Laura?
those. Laura
Yeah, I
can
do.
pull it
And I
up.
did just get the interior of the building, although I'm not going to put it up because it's really a detailed drawing. It's very detailed, but I will send it to the board after this. Here is the new garages.
So that's the access, obvious perspective
There
for
we
the
go.
bike trail.
Bike trail, right.
Yeah, so I mean, again, right? It's clear this was not our desirable option for this PUD, right? I mean, I think the garages look great from this side, and thanks to the ARB for the recommendations they made. I like that. It's the bike path view, and so all I can hope for is that people are really just gonna be whizzing right by.
And what our hopes are, and we got to talk to the SHPO and some of the folks that we dealt with from the Aqueduct Park that Laura and Wes and Sampson and myself had worked on, but we'd love to use some of the existing canal blocks, plant some vine growth and stuff, and try to introduce a little bit of the history of the corridor into it like we did on the first phase. That originally I thought that and I wasn't part of the board's approvals, but the box culverts and a number of the things that we added in phase one would have looked intrusive to the bike trail without us doing some of the cool architectural details with those historical blocks there to make it look like it was the old aqueduct and some of the history that was there as well. And I think we could do the same thing as well with the concurrence of some of those regulatory agencies again and being able to utilize them instead of just having them be abandoned in the woods.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this section of a bike trail, which would appear to be rural, right? We've now taken it and made it more urban,
Mhm.
right?
Definitely.
But that's something that, again, it's just, an unfortunate natural consequence of having to deal with outdoor garages, right?
This rendering also doesn't show the planting plan, which is unfortunately multiple pages back here. But the planting plan also shows screening. Shows screening all along the backs of the garage.
Yep, yeah, I'd seen that. Yeah, it's just a.
So this is like worst case scenario.
Yeah, but it's just the impression that you get, right?
It's
Even
true.
with the planting plan.
So it looks like we're okay with the back. Can you scroll to page 54, Laura? That's the
Yeah,
ARB
this
markup.
ARB still has comments.
Right. That's the one I think we need to discuss, the front of the garages. So it looks like the suggestion was to carry the roof line down and eliminate the small roof over the garages, right? What do you think, Mr. Profundi?
I think, in my opinion, I think sometimes the architectural review board has a lot of comments that we even used in the apartment design that brings us like further into quality. I believe that these comments reduce quality. So I'd like to stick with our original design, and I truly believe that our rendition is high quality. And if I take those things away, I think they kind of look like cheaper garages. So those extra levels of projection and detail, in my opinion, and higher quality products too, metal roofing, some of the bracketing, I think it adds more quality and it matches into what our brand is.
And the lighting is still going to be up underneath the,
Yes,
So-
recessed lights as well. Yeah.
I'm not an architect, but I do feel like the double roof line looks weird to me. Like, I think it looks weird. I'm not an architect. I'm not sure I've ever seen garages though with two roofs like that.
I'm not an architect. I like it.
I liked it too.
think
You
it's
like it?
actually- Yeah, it's more of a Saratoga reference. You see that more in a old carriage house type of layout from my limited experience.
Which is what Ben Nassaver, our architect, had. He didn't use those exact terms, but we went with the row housing design, which kind of brings a little bit of history into things. And he believed that we should stick with it. And I always take their recommendation. They are the ones that lead us to a lot of where it is.
Mr. Serafino, you want to comment on this one as to what the motivation was?
I mean, I think I had the same comment before with where you have the gable, you've got that little roof line that snakes through.
That's
It's
the only
fine.
one
I-
that, yeah.
I don't see the value of that. If you think it looks good, then everyone's, got their opinion to what they do or don't like. It just seems to me like it's a little bit of a maintenance issue, and it's not a lot of roofing that serves anything. But if that was eliminated and that gable was terminated so that that one garage bay simply breaks up that long roof line, that's helpful. The double shed, I guess the little shed projection, yeah, it's a nice feature. Generally, you want to see a little bit more space between the two roof lines. It is tight. Looks like you probably have maybe 18 inches or so underneath it, or tighter, but that doesn't bother me. The side with the bike path, which has, you know, the blank facade on it, I don't know if there's something that you could do, even if it was, I don't want to say a window
Brick window?
per unit, if that's a concern with security, but if fenestration was added or something that could break that up a little bit, that may have some benefit to it, and not just, you know, like a circle that's applied out of AZAC or something like that. Just, you know, if you added windows to it, there might be a gain to get some natural light into the garages from one side. I believe you'd probably want them fixed so that they're, you know, not a security risk.
Yes. I can bring that comment back to our team, and I think we can come up with something.
Dr. Darpino, I said, Dave, do you think I mean, glass, I could see why they might not want glass that close to the bike path. What about a fake window? No glass, but the shape, you know, the trim, would that break it up? I'm asking you as the expert on that. Like, it might not be a good idea, but
Yeah, I mean, a false windows really don't serve any purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to put a window in, there would be some value to get some daylight in there.
sure.
Then you run the risk of somebody putting a curtain in one of them and doing something different.
Which is almost guaranteed.
Right.
In
right.
the park.
They might put something in there to screen it, or if it's maybe an opaque glass or something in there, or frosted glass. There's options that you could do to get daylight in.
Yep.
To maybe break up that facade.
Well, if it's up high enough, people aren't going to be inclined to do the curtain thing. The curtain would be to prevent people from looking in.
Yeah, up
I
high,
mean,
up high.
I just like bringing up a negative here, right? But it does make the garage a little more vulnerable from the bike path perspective, right?
I'd like to discuss actually who's going to be utilizing this bike path a little, because as we're talking more about it, I can't recall having a conversation about really what this stretch of bike path will be used primarily for. And the more I think about it, it almost seems as though it'll be more internal flow for residents of your
This is the existing
PUD.
bike path, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is heavily used.
over
Yeah.
over the lifetime of the project of this site, though, I don't see how you get from, let's say, the recreation center to the commercial outbuilding on this side of the bike path.
So there's a shared use trail that was requested in the PDD that connects the bike trail to the Aqueduct Park along the river. So that's one access that connects you kind of interdevelopment, right? We have the sidewalk that will connect you from the seniors along the bike trail, across the bike trail to a sidewalk infrastructure that we put in interdevelopment through the rec building.
So Chuck, I reside in the senior living building, and I'd like to go to the restaurant / coffee shop that's still proposed on the opposite end.
You wouldn't even have to leave the building.
No, not the
The commercial.
attached,
No,
the
additional commercial
detached.
space.
Yeah,
The additional commercial space.
on
So,
the east side.
yeah, I don't have a tenant for that now. Right now, you would have to go into the complex, right? And you would have to walk the internal sidewalk infrastructure to get to that other side.
Well, no.
Or you would take the bike trail.
You could take the bike trail.
Yep. But right now, I would never put a restaurant use there. I'm not even really sure who we're going to get there. It doesn't have a large amount of parking. We're thinking of somebody that has a small office component or something, but we definitely wouldn't be able to put a restaurant there. There's not enough parking.
Well, but I mean, one of the keys to success would be a tenant that serves your population there.
Right, and that's why we grew our commercial space, I think from the original PDD internal to our first phase. So we're trying to get 2 eatery components there. And then, the thing that Peter and I have talked about on the other building would be more of an office component. So like what we did at Starbucks was we had office space that if you try to rent large office space right now, you're dropping into a barrel of, of a million different opportunities that are out there. Office is pretty, saturated right now. So what we did was we did micro offices, which a lot of the residents that live at Starbucks actually now work there too. So they rent like a 200 square foot office instead of becoming part of a co-work station or co-work operation. They rent a small gross lease suite there. That was something that we talked about. But either or, I don't really see it being like I said, we just talked with the board about parking constraints within this the senior building. I believe that commercial component will pull outside public. I believe the other commercial component would be more so remote work type outlook with maybe small parking component for small amount of visitors. Like we had a wealth management gentleman, a real estate agent, a Reiki massage therapist, all different people that really are a client at a time, and they didn't overwhelm the parking in the building. And it gave them a nice access where they had a walkable office to where they're residing. Gave that wholesome community feel.
Yeah, it really fills out the variety of use.
Yeah.
I guess where I'm going with this is just if you think about point-to-point destinations within your site, ones that you already have, such as the recreation center and the path of least resistance for residents of, let's say, those 10-unit buildings on the southeastern corner.
Yeah.
Isn't it actually the case that it's easier for them to walk along the bike path to get to that recreation center?
That's correct. Because so your point is definitely valid there. You really, even with the topography of the site, your two access points to kind of get to the seniors from the 160 units are isolated down to the driveways because you have blasted cliff faces and a number of different retaining walls over on that end. And the natural buffer that we kept along the bike trail that's really not trees, it's briars and different things that you can't really cut through, right? So you're coming down our driveways and yeah, you could use the bike trail as a thoroughfare. But I also think that's ultimately what the use of it's for. A lot of our residents use their bike. They come out through our driveways and they have the multi-use path. And then once we kick off the senior building, a lot of our staged material right now is over on the shared access path that connects the Aqueduct Trail to the front of the PDD. We're taking that material out of there, placing it as our fill, right? And then essentially that pathway is going to get built during the senior complex. So we're providing that access then as well. We didn't really we staged our material there because the shared use path would have led to nowhere because we hadn't constructed our public use parking lot that's off to the left over there, right?
Mm-hmm. What does it even look like to light a section of the Mohawk Hudson bike path? Is that who has the easement for that?
I think it's New York State Parks and Rec that has the authority in there, right?
I believe that we own the bike path in that area. It's a mixture of ownership, but I believe from.
I just remember our crossing permit. Remember it was New York State Parks.
We were the underlying landowner, but that trail is the Mohawk Hudson Bike Trail or the Empire State Trail. And so the Office of Parks and Historic Preservation, and I don't know, it's a lot of.
New York State.
It's a long acronym.
It's a long little thing.
There are sections of the bike path that are lit
Yeah,
for
no,
good reason. I almost
think
tend to that end of the spectrum. Maybe you want it more well lit, more visibility, given how it might be frequented at certain times of day.
It's really interesting you said that because Complete Streets looked at this today and they were very excited about the sidewalks, going to the Mohawk Hudson Bike Trail because originally these buildings didn't have sidewalks in the Mohawk Hudson Bike Trail. So they're really happy to see the sidewalks. So they actually asked if the Mohawk Hudson Bike Trail would be plowed with them. Because anybody who's walking, like you said, around in this complex, a lot of the residents are going to be using the Mohawk Hudson Bike Trail. And I think this one is not plowed in the winter. Like we only plow some sections. This one isn't. And they were even wondering if there was a way that these guys could make an agreement with us to plow that section.
I mean, we wouldn't have a problem with that. Like you're saying, the section that borders our two properties. I mean, we wouldn't have a problem. I can say working there in the winter, a lot of people cross country ski it too.
Okay.
You may have some upset residents if we start plowing it. but-
Half snow,
Half, yeah, half plowed.
That's the reason actually that the town doesn't.
Plow the whole thing is because there's a variety of uses.
It does,
Yeah.
it does bring up an architectural direction, like you could have floodlights off the back of the garage and lighting the bike path with some fake windows just underneath that floodlight, or something that would look good with that, but I do agree that lighting that
That's code
would help.
violation though.
What's that?
That's a code violation though.
Which part? The
Because
lights?
you're allowing the commercial floodlights to then go on to the, you'd probably rather want ornamental decorations.
Well, I'm trying to decrease the maintenance for the town. I'm just
Yeah,
trying
I
to
know.
have it be smart.
Yeah.
At
Well,
any rate,
it's something that could develop over time as you get full build out and more kind of cross pollination between your uses. And when's your rec building going to be complete?
It's all done.
Oh,
Yeah.
so do you have any numbers or analysis on the use and how?
Yeah, it's being
utilized?
frequented a lot. I mean, we just, after the rec building went on, I think we went from 80% to 95% rented. So we put a top quality golf simulator in there that's multi-sport. So you can do soccer, baseball, basketball, golf, zombie dodgeball, everything in between. And it was a huge hit. It was the first time we've done one. It's like in any of our properties. And then we had our fitness center, pool table, dartboard. And the pool is supposed to be completed this year with an opening in the spring. So we're just about out of there. The pickleball has been coated. We're just waiting for the netting and stuff to be installed. But it's a new craze pickleball.
where are they located? Where are those courts located?
Right off to the right of the clubhouse.
Within the interior.
Nope, outside. The pickleball's outside.
I mean, the interior of the.
Oh, of that
Complex,
envelope. Yeah. Yep.
So Patrick, thanks for getting some more elucidation about the bike path usage. I think the key thing there is, I think a finite number of residents, maybe for, all, maybe 6 months of the year would potentially be using it. But remember, the starting point for this one was, some opportunity to break up the backside of it. And I was more thinking about, again, members of the public that use the bike path, right? That again, today it's rural, right? Rural look and feel, even with phase one on the side, right? It's not going to be that anymore, right? And so what could be done? It's reasonable to either break up that backside, facade of the garages, or or nothing, right? Then just accept the plantings, et cetera, that are going to go in there and mature just like in the front. Or, we're going to take it over in 15 years.
So I guess going back to the streetlight option, is that something that they could do within that right of way of the bike path on their property
I think they would need permission from the town and from the state.
from the state?
Yeah, but I mean, usually the state will accept improvements from, that are overall improving the path,
Mhm.
but they can't be like privately owned. Like the developer can put them in, but the town ends up as the owner.
Okay.
Of the
I
light.
just remember, I mean, I will do anything like with that. I don't see a problem with that, but it just also remembering all the planning boards meetings I went through with the residents of Alpos and a number, I just think an additional adding of light pollution and stuff is probably not.
Yeah, I mean, there are two things for me here. It's the light pollution part of it and extra lighting. And the second part of it is that I don't think we want this section of the bike path to appear that it belongs to the development. Right? It's still a public bike path that the development happened to grow around it, right? So, when you are biking down that or walking down that, you hit this, and I don't think it'll be overhead lights. If you hit some nice ornamental lights, it's like, oh, wow, it's part of this development, right? It's like Niskuna sold the bike path, right? Yeah.
Well, you don't feel that way about the section of bike path that runs through the Mohawk Harbor. Do you?
In all honesty, personally, as somebody who bikes all the time, I actually do. And so we tend
We're all
to,
much better. I think
Yeah.
we're all better off for it,
right?
frankly.
Yeah, so myself, I tend to actually avoid that section and go back to where it's rural.
Let me say this too. I think if our development, and I'll get into the minutia a little bit of what I forecast with our commercial tenants. I think the commercial use is what would truly bolster traffic volumes on the bike traffic. And, our diners being forecasted as breakfast, lunch closed, right? No dinner. The ice cream parlor would then pick up. Because I like to try to create synergy with our traffic volume so you're not overflowing one or another. So after lunch closes with the diner, the ice cream parlor picks up for like that late lunch to dinner, like after sports hours, right? Or, when the kids get out of school. And I wouldn't forecast that to be open post dark. So I don't really see us adding after hours, like post dark traffic volumes to the bike trail where I think it would be anything different than what it is today. Let me just say that.
From a safety perspective, I'm just envisioning a period of time before snowfall in the fall when sunset occurs pretty early in the evening and people may be after work hours recreating in your beautiful recreation building and then wanting to walk back to their unit on the southeastern corner.
I do believe that we're covered for lighting at our crossings because we have our photometric design with the site lighting going through those areas. So I do believe we're covered there. It's the internal stretch that's in between both entrances that'd be vacant.
Adding lighting adds invitation. I mean, if you have an adequate path lit, that's probably going to be the path taken.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but when the state put in the bike path from Stewart's down to the Rexford Bridge on the Saratoga County side, they actually put in these little
pedestal
light
lights,
poles.
yeah.
They're pedestrian lights. They're only like 3 feet tall. They're actually not very bright at all.
Yep.
But they do add a little bit of light along that bike path just to kind of guide you up. They're quite lovely and they're very small and they would definitely not cause light pollution.
Right, but they serve a purpose there, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got circled, you got an interchange going on, right? Here, the bike path is contiguous, right?
Well,
No,
this is along.
Yeah,
the
this is
main
right
highway.
along the main.
Yeah, it's on the main highway. Yeah, right. But
Yeah.
I think those lights serve a purpose there to just beyond the core, right? It's actually guiding the trail.
Yeah, you actually would probably never notice them unless you walk it, but I encourage you to look for them
Well,
the next time
it
you're driving
invites
down.
the use of that side of the road. It makes it clear that's where I should be at night. Like, there's a lot of benefit to it. But I agree with all the comments. I just think that if the light plan that they have invites traffic to flow that way, then we would be interrupting that.
And I would just be, as an applicant, I'd just be concerned with putting a contingency on the project for an outside regulatory agency to give us the authority to add lighting there. I do believe everything is governed by New York State Parks and Rec on that stretch of the bike trail.
So that would
I
be up to
can't
us.
promise
That
that,
would be up
but
to us to look into and request it.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you could, but I would make it a contingency because I do believe it would be a lengthy conversation. Everything that we dealt with the bike trail
It was
crossings
long.
and everything with the, modifications we were making was a very, very lengthy process.
When your plantings in the back mature in a picture like this, and maybe we just need to see a better rendering with that planting configuration in there, how high up are they going to go?
Or is that it?
Yeah, I would have to look at the drawings, but some of these trees, I think they can go up to like 30 or 40 feet with full maturity, but I don't know how many years that is. I'm by no means.
Right. Well, you peppered the entire
Yeah.
length with trees, which I think is overkill.
Yeah. It was screening was a comment.
Well,
screening's what Brett gave.
I don't mind the fact that you go from a rural to an urban area. The bike path snakes through Schenectady. And if you're going to have some commercial enterprises, I think the low level lights on the bike trail just along the backs of that section with the 3 garages is a great idea. I don't see any drawback to it, especially if they're small pedestals. It serves a dual benefit, and You know, I just see that there's like, if you take a little bit of the landscaping away, which you probably don't need all of that, and then put the low level lights in, then you create a better safety pedestrian thing that you know that your residents are going to use.
And we have no problem doing it. I just get concerned with getting stuck in a stalemate with another regulatory agency. If there's a way that the board can structure it where it's a contingency on that regulatory agency being worked with
Yeah, well-
Niskayuna, I know they're not going to bend to me. There would
Yeah,
be
why
a
don't you take a look
conversation.
at the lights, that Laura referenced along. Yeah, I know you drive by there probably
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time, but take a look at that. And I think we can at least condition that you explore it somehow and, just so you can move forward and it doesn't become a critical path item to getting a shovel in the ground. Which I know-
Yeah, and you can tell by probably a little bit of our excitement. We got a finalized term
Yeah.
sheet from the bank. We got our Army Corps and DEC concurrences. It's been a very long road. Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, if there was one thing I would ask for now would be in that 3D rendering you had at the back, is there a way you can, a more reasonable fill in of what those would look like? Maybe at
With
10-year
windows.
maturity or 5-year maturity or 15-year, something.
Yeah.
Just to give the board, myself, another view of what the
Could you
future
pull
that looks
this up,
like.
Laura?
Yeah.
Any chance?
Yeah.
This
and-
may give you a
Yeah,
little.
yeah,
bit-
we have that page. It gives you definitely a sense in terms of the heights, but I meant in terms of that one 3D
Oh.
rendering that you have right along the backside.
Yeah,
right?
the space, so the visual perspective of that spacing of trees.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see that among board members here, we might have some opposing views on this topic, right? I mean, if
Well,
we were,
I mean, you've mentioned the canal, bricks, stones. Is that the plan? Is that not the plan?
That
Will
would
there
be the plan.
vines? Like that's just confirmation is what will actually be there.
Yeah,
we
so
can
it
decide.
will either be a combination of the man-made manufactured block that we have on site, which I believe is beautiful. We did like a really nice mosaic, I don't know if it was Allen block or Versalock, but it's very nice. Or it would be pivoting to the canal block stones, which I think would be more inviting to the bike path corridor. We added them already to shield the box culverts.
Mhm.
And they've been added to Aqueduct Park within that design. So keeping like a synergy to the corridor, I think would be very cool to do the aqueduct blocks.
The only thing about using the aqueduct blocks is that you actually have to put the retaining wall on the state property.
It would have to be on the state boundary. So we would be filling up to our boundary line. The blocks would start on the state boundary.
They can't be on private property.
Is there an inventory of those available?
Yeah, we have them all neatly stacked down
would
on the Canal Corps property right now. That whatever wasn't used for the
The-
park.
But that addresses the lower section. Now the up, how high?
yeah, I
is-
mean, so this drawing was not in our packet, right? 'Cause I
It
think-
is. It's the third page of the renderings. It goes 1, 2, 3.
So you would like, if we go back a slide,
About that high.
you would like this rendering redone with the
Well, I mean,
landscape
okay,
plan spacing is what you're,
I mean, I personally feel a little bit satisfied with the side view,
okay.
right? I saw the other version of that drawing and didn't get to this one.
Yeah, it's the very, very last one.
Yeah.
I'd just like to echo what Mr. Garpino said about the landscape buffer between the walking path and the garage. I think enough to break up the facade a little, but it's a really nice garage that I think you've done a nice job with that. If you can incorporate some of the elements from the aqueduct and, there is a variety of plantings there. I think 3 different kinds of species. If it's really that tightly no spacing between the trees, then you kind of have I almost think that creates a different issue.
You can wind up with unhealthy trees.
Yeah.
I think whatever is reasonable. It doesn't have to be as tightly packed as the drawing shows. But
Yeah.
again, the point of view I'm coming from is the bike path is the public's. It's not the development's.
Right.
Right, period. And I think the public needs to feel that bike path is the public's and doesn't belong to development.
Yep.
Development folks can use it as part of being the public to get from point A to point B. But I think, riding through there, we definitely, so look, I use that bike path all the time. So I know what I feel and I know what others that use it feel. And again, I'm glad you brought up the one by Mohawk Harbor, right? it feels like it belongs to the casino and to the developments that are there and to the, right? It's not,
Well, but I feel completely welcome. It
Yeah.
feels like a public
Yeah, and-
street.
and I shouldn't
So-
feel welcome as a member of the public on something that I own, right? I should feel at home on something that I own. Not that I'm a guest of the casino.
Okay.
It's opposing point of views. We will work out our differences,
Eh,
I
but
think
I'm just
one-
letting you know where I'm
One
coming
of them
from.
rides a mountain bike and the other one rides a road bike.
All right, so where do we go from here? What's our timing? Yeah, that's the last item. I can go on just real quick here. Outdoor seating, you said you show that. Bus stop, we'll condition that so that we can explore that opportunity with CDTA. Breaking up the sea of asphalt. I'm not sure if you decided we're going to eliminate 2 parking spots or leave it as is. Sounds like you want to leave it as is what I heard, based on the feedback that we want to maintain as many parking spots as possible. The entrances and exits, we're going to get the drawing, which we already received with the corridor to show that. But the resolution there was to have the 15-minute unloading zone on the front and on the rear. You would supply the setback dimensions on the garages as requested. And it sounds like the garage design is, the recommendation of the developer is to keep it as is, as proposed. That's what I heard. And the other open item would be, the new one would be low-level lighting to evaluate, similar to what's down the bike path from coming down from the Rexford Bridge going north to south. Just at least take a look at that, see if we could have even solar or some kind of like a low-level lighting, just so that they could commute that path, during.
Yeah, and like I said, we're
hours.
open to that. I just don't know.
Yeah, just take a look at it and see what
Yeah.
you think. That's what I heard. Is that fair?
Yes, although I do think, I don't know if the board like fully agreed or not with David's recommendation to take not worry about the double roof. I'm the only one that think that looks weird. But take the roof out in the pyramid section here.
I'm going to take the counterpoint on this. I wonder
You
if
like it
that
here?
creates
Yeah.
sort of, it makes it look really tall, strangely tall, that garage bay.
Yeah.
It would, if you remove that, it's kind of hard to picture, but now you'd have, I don't know, 8 to 10 foot white siding, peak roof.
Given,
It might actually give the feeling of that bay being taller than the rest.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I'm not,
Say.
yeah, I didn't know that we had resolution on that or not. And then I had also had the note of maybe just exploring the windows on the back of the garages.
for whatever it's worth, I'm okay with the front face of the garages the way they're depicted right now.
Me too.
Me too.
All right. Again, on the back, a reasonable amount of plantings of trees that will over some, long period of time attain that height. I think that serves part of the purpose of, the kind of screening that we think about for members of the public bike path users. So if there's something you come up with that's, awesome looking that breaks up the back, it's fine. But if not, then we're going to rely on that, on that buffer again.
I guess it's maybe if we could request just breaking up that gable, modifying the rendering is probably pretty easy. And since you want to have a light over each of the overhead bay doors, correct?
Yeah, and that's ultimately that's servicing at
Correct,
that time.
That's a light path.
Yeah.
So if you broke that roof line off and had a pendant that was there, that would maybe help break up the gable. Just if it's an easy rendering, it might help satisfy what the board's looking for.
Okay.
And then there could at least be 2 options with contingency. There's one more meeting before we would call for the final. Are we heading that way?
I don't know. That's why I was kind of leading that with the conditions. If
we
we
were heading to the,
we got 2.
We
was it
were
two-
hoping for the
Yeah.
conditions tonight in the next meeting. It would concur with our closing dates and a number of other things that we have lined up.
I think
Yeah,
you're
so my
ready.
recommendation would be to call for a final because we only have one meeting in
Yep.
September.
I mean, I came into this meeting expecting that our next meeting we'd be voting on a resolution.
Yeah,
You also.
and how far does that roof line hang out? Does it provide a useful overhang?
I think it's an atypical like fascia overhang. I mean, what are
Yeah,
those usually,
it's-
Dave?
That probably only maybe overhangs maybe a less than a foot.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is it's creating a pathway for a recessed light fixture for the
Exactly.
electrical to run
Yeah.
through there, which then it would have to snake down underneath those, what I'll call shed canopies.
And ventilation.
Right.
Yeah.
And drainage, right?
I
The
don't
water's
mind-
gonna flow.
This view at all, this rendering.
You don't like it, Miss?
No, I don't mind it at all.
Don't
Mind,
mind.
Yeah.
Don't mind it.
And I think you
Their
can,
own.
and I think for the board and Leslie, you can see it actually in that drawing that I missed, which is the last one after the bike path rendering. It shows exactly how it's going to look. And
To me, it would look funny if the sections with the gables didn't have the roof line running through. It's just me.
All right.
all right, yeah.
So I think you owe some things. Seem like they're pretty straightforward. Can the planning department handle getting a resolution and conditions that we talked about tonight?
I wrote those all down, and clerk and I can send a draft to project leads and Kevin.
Yep.
Yeah. But recognize on the one point where there seems to be, differing viewpoints from board members,
We
puts
can
the
have-
applicant in a little bit of a bind relative to state approval or Parks and Recreation approval on,
Yeah, we can be careful with that
yeah.
language.
So,
And you guys can always amend whatever language you
Yeah,
think as well.
right, especially as I'm sitting here,
Yeah.
Mr. Laflamme has his own view on it, but as I'm sitting here today, I would accept what's in front of us.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm there too, but I think there's some value in the low lighting, just for the foot lighting that's similar to what Laura mentioned. That doesn't seem like that would be too intrusive, or it might actually benefit. So it's worth at least taking a look at it and see what you think, all right?
Yes,
And,
and I have one last thing on
Yep.
that. So in preparation for that, the next meeting, I know the TDE is always kind of in the mix of all this. Is there anything that Joe needs to be engaged for prior to the next meeting?
We already sent him the updated site plans. We haven't heard back from him yet, but I don't think he needs any more because he looks at grading and drainage and things like that.
Okay, so we're good there.
Yeah, we'll be looking for a letter of approval from him.
Okay. All right, so have a resolution next meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah, thanks for
everybody's
your
time.
Thank you.
Chuck, this is actually kind of related to phase one, but phase one still needs the pressure reducing valve on Balltown Road.
Yes.
So that's a priority to work
You
out
want
with the
a quick
engineering department.
update on that?
Sure.
Update is so DOT had kind of put us through the ringer on last year. We tried to do it. They pushed it out because of weather, right? This year, they pretty much ripped up our approvals of our original lifting plan and nighttime lighting and work zone traffic control. And we're reworking that with the state right now.
Oh,
So we're due out there in October to get that done and deal with traffic notifications. So it'll all be nighttime work. The location that engineering in Niskayuna picked required for us to get a 500-ton crane, which is a crane that requires 9 lowboy trailers to be set up. So, oh yeah. So this has been far from a little vault.
Do you have to
Okay.
move power- All right, that's a huge undertaking. but
Yeah,
that's
yeah. So I guess I just wanted to
Permitting.
at least let the board understand that this vault has been an enormous undertaking and it's taking a lot of coordination, temporary construction procedures, nighttime lighting operations, work zone traffic control, and an extensive lifting plan.
Okay, I think you did share with me that before. The one thing that we have from our side is that there's a fair amount of residential homes that'll be without water when you do that.
Yeah.
And so last year it almost hit like on Thanksgiving and then almost on Christmas. And so the water department just wants to make sure that it doesn't get pushed into the holidays because that's a really hard time for the water to be out for that amount of homes.
Completely understood.
Yeah.
What's the number of
And-
homes, Laura?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Okay.
And what I wanted to also remind yourself and the board, so there's still a $500,000 bond
Yes.
protecting that vault from being completed and a slew of other things that have already since been completed. So we're overvalued on that bond right now in protection in Niskayuna,
We are.
just to put that out there.
And this is just because we had a meeting with engineering before this meeting started. there's still a home on Aqueduct Road that needs a little bit of topsoil and grass seed on it from the water line being installed. Don't forget about that one.
Okay.
And then the one that I think I brought up a couple times, and this is still phase one. Phase one has a sidewalk from the edge of the entrance on, I can't remember your road names that well. Ledge Drive. Oh no, so it's actually, yeah, phase one has a sidewalk from where the bike path crosses to the property line. And it looks like Rivers Ledge has put beautiful decorative stone where the sidewalk's supposed to be.
Okay.
So
I
maybe
just
double
may have
check
to
your-
talk to Peter on.
Yeah, double check your site plan for phase one on that bit of sidewalk.
Okay. So you don't like the decorative stone?
Oh, it's beautiful, but it's where the sidewalk's supposed to be.
Yeah. I guess I always thought that sidewalk was supposed to provide sidewalk access to something, but because of the Army Corps, we won't have sidewalk ever leading that direction. I don't.
Yeah, oops, you can't actually. It goes to the sidewalk that you're supposed to build for phase two. So this is another thing that I keep bringing up to you. When the resolution was amended, allowing the extension and a couple of relief things for the rec center and things like that, it became required that Rivers Ledge would build the sidewalk from. It's off the map, but from where the Aqueduct Road crosswalk for the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail goes down to Aqueduct Park. And we still don't have a. Yeah, it's off the map. Yeah, it doesn't go that way. Yeah, I could bring up a different map, but it goes. Phase one was to build the sidewalk from the crossing to the edge of your property line, and then phase two is from the edge of your property line down to the entrance to Aqueduct Park, the close one.
Understood. We'll get it done.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight. And thanks, everybody, for being patient with us on that one. Next up is 2890 River Road. This is a new application for the front of the board. I know we have a group of folks here, so if you start off introducing yourself and summarizing the project, and you can take it from there.
Good evening, Michael Roman. I'm working with Ryan Lucy, who's here with me, and Michael Dussault, who is the civil engineer for the project. I put together just a quick PowerPoint just to kind of give you a quick overview of what we're looking to do, where we're at, and really kind of here to kind of get feedback from everyone as we look to move forward with the project.
The PDF or the PowerPoint you want? Either one is fine. I'll do PDF. I'll just do it on the screen.
All right, so the property is, right now it's listed as 2890 River Road. It's about 5.26 acres. We're looking to do a 4-lot subdivision. The red line is outlining the property, which is along River Road, and as you know, Seneca. Each of the lots are going to be single-family houses. You can go to the next one, Laura. So we've done a wetland delineation, which is depicted here in the orange area. It's about 2.14 acres of wetland, Army Corps. And there's an existing house that's currently on the site that's shown on the map right now that's yellow, which will be removed. And obviously it's accessed off of River Road. Next one. So this is the proposed 4-lot division. We have 3 houses that are going to be accessed off of River Road. And then there's going to be 1 house that's coming off the cul-de-sac on Seneca. One of the things that we've talked with Laura and Clark is Currently, there's access to the park off of Seneca, which we'll maintain. I think right now it kind of would come through the property, but we can grant an easement or figure something through and enhance that. It's a nice access route to get over into the park. So this really is kind of just where we're at. We have done the wetland delineation for the property, so we're pretty comfortable with what's there. We know there's some drainage issues and stuff, which, myself and Ryan are concerned about, but we're pretty confident in with Mike DeSalt's from Engineering Ventures expertise on how we can handle it. So that was just, I don't want to spend a lot of time, just want to kind of give you a quick understanding of what we're looking to do and where we're looking to move forward.
You said the path to the park, is that just an informal trail? People started cutting, is that what's there?
I think my understanding there's a path there now, but we just, right now it's actually coming through, which would be our property. So we can coordinate an easement
Yeah.
or
Is that what
somehow
it is,
grant-
Laura? Do you know? Is it just,
It's a little trail that
people
was
started
built,
working?
legally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll make it so that it's to be used.
And as far as the houses on River Road, there's the one existing home compared to where the three that are proposed. I guess it would be like between, if you start from the left to right, 1, 2, 3, it's kind of between 2 and 3.
Yeah, correct. It'd be nestled between those two.
Is where it's at now.
Correct.
So one of the things, again, it's this proposal, but since that's a county road, obviously this would have to go to the county to make sure they don't have a problem with curb
For
cuts.
curb cuts, correct.
Especially the distance between driveways, if this were to go forward. So I don't know at what point in time we send it to the county. I guess we could always send a preliminary so they can start getting familiar with it, but that would have to occur. And, as you heard from the public and as I know you've discussed with the town, the concerns with, water, obviously. Have you started doing any work with the proposal, or is that, have you gotten anywhere, or is that what's up next?
As far as the water management and stuff?
Yeah, the water management.
Yeah, we've looked at
stormwater.
some preliminary stuff, but we haven't really started to dive into something that we're looking to.
I mean, obviously, that seems like that's the big hurdle, right? On how far you go with this project, whether,
I think so.
yep, I mean, it seems pretty obvious, right?
Yep.
The houses along river, they tend to flow back from the rear of the homes down into the wetland. Is that a true
Correct.
statement?
Yep.
And the house proposed on Seneca, what's the flows like there? Is that also to the front of the property into that?
Yeah, that's about grade elevation 300, and it kicks back into the wetlands.
All right. Took a ride over there just before the meeting. It rained not that hard, but it did rain a little bit today.
Yeah.
I see the one street there. What's the name of that one street off of Seneca? Good. Thank you for helping me with that. There's a barrel there, an orange barrel. Is that over a storm sewer that's plugged, or is there no storm sewer there? Do we know what's underneath that barrel?
I don't know.
You don't know? Does anybody know? There's something underneath there that's supposed to drain that's there that's covered on the grate? Okay. Because there was a pretty good pool of water there. If you get an opportunity to take a ride down, you can see what I was talking
Yeah, I'll
about.
check that out.
So either it's plugged or it's not there or it's not draining or
Yeah.
something, but there's water buildup on that corner there. So I'm not sure what direction it's coming from. I'm not saying it might be coming from the back of your property, most likely, down through the, I guess from Iroquois on that way to the street. But obviously it's not going anywhere,
I'm sorry, just a clarification question, Laura, for Ms. Taveria who spoke. Where is her property on this picture?
Yeah, we'll have
The
Laura.
aerial, the first
It's on
one.
the other
Laura?
side of Seneca, right?
Oh, that one's not. Oh, sorry. This one.
That's the one there.
And and that field behind, it's actually that's a school, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the joint Iroquois Rosendale property, right? Which they've actually expanded the Iroquois building
Yeah, it's
significantly.
under construction.
Can you provide an estimate just in terms of elevation change between Miss Tiberio's home and your side of the street?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if we have a survey and going over there or if you have an existing survey, but I mean, it's easily can be looked at and kind of bring it over the grade lines and see, like I said, that one part here, we're over at 300 as far as the grading goes. And then it kind of drops down, I think, to about what's that number? So it's 300 on the far left, and then it goes down to 288 as you head into the wetlands. And then as we come back to the bend of Seneca, it comes up to 292 and into the road at 294.
So it literally just pools there.
It's very low. So I think in your packet, we included an analysis that Clark had been doing on problematic flooding areas. And we just finished the Polsinelli subdivision. They had to do a very thorough water analysis. It was time consuming. And Clark was really the head of that to make sure that the water, every drop of water was accounted for. This is actually the other pinch point location that we identified in town prior to the subdivision coming forward. And it is a location that's low and we know is prone to flooding.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, Laura, and I'm glad you and Clark did put that addendum on the application. I mean, at the end of the day, if this proceeds forward, I think in the bare minimum, the analysis that Mr. Steenberg went through for the Polsinelli, so it might be worthwhile to meet with Clark and do the apples to apples comparison in terms of the percentile rainfall that was used, et cetera, et cetera. But the more important thing was actually the mitigation strategy, right? So I think we can safely say that, the board required on that development, some assessment and implementation of a situation better than was there before, right? I think I got that right.
I think
right?
so too.
And so I think you're probably going to be faced with the same kind of challenge here, given that it's a known.
Yeah, and some of that
documented
information
flood
was
area.
in the agenda, in the packet. Now, if you looked online, went through the packet or not, if you haven't had the opportunity, please take a look at it because a lot of it was included in there for our information, but take a
I don't
look
think
at
I
it.
saw it, but I'll look.
Yeah, take a look,
So I think we're just being upfront at this point, saying that part of this development, if it goes forward, will involve some kind of problem solving of that water.
Yeah. And as Laura mentioned, we recently had a couple of smaller subdivisions, I guess I'd say smaller from the amount of homes that were proposed over on Empire, and that was Joralemon. There was just some, I would call it minor as compared to the concerns, but he made sure to address, where the two homes proposed and where the water would go, the driveway, so on and so forth. And so he came through that. You probably, so again, the videos are all out there if you have any concern or like to see the path that we've taken. And then over off of Rao Road for the Antonio, I believe his name of it, or Antonio.
Polsinelli.
We had Polsinelli,
Yeah.
Polsinelli is the application. So that one,
In the road.
but it was, the application was Antonio, I believe. right?
Yeah.
Antonia.
Antonia, yeah.
But that one, there was, a higher level of concern. And Mr. Steenberg, who was here earlier, did some extensive work to show that they can, with the new impervious surface, that the water could be, directed or held up on site in such a way that it wouldn't exacerbate the situation that they have over there already.
Yeah, pages. I mean, it's worth looking at. I mean, even here in public, pages 79 and 80 on the packet, right?
Yeah, it's in the packet.
I mean, and that's July.
Yeah.
That's like several weeks ago.
They created a little vault at the base of the driveway that collected any of the runoff from added surface, and showed how at the infiltration rates it would discharge at a rate at peak runoff that wouldn't put any additional strain on the stormwater system. So there were still some open questions on what happens after the lifetime of that vault, which he estimated around, I think, 30 years or so.
Yeah.
But that's
It also included
still-
maintenance plans, if I
yeah, there was a
recall.
maintenance.
Maintenance
plan.
plans, so make sure that it maintained its capability to do what it was supposed to do. And I think that was included so that when if those lots get sold and a new homeowner understands what's required there to maintain that.
However, there's another perspective I'd like to bring up to the board, and this is probably not an applicant's issue, it's more a board discussion issue. So I've always felt that over in Vincenzo, Antonia, the entire railroad area that we kind of inherited an incremental. We knew we had a problem with water. We approved certain developments with what I would call, some level of mitigation along the way. And then I think we basically made it very clear and made it, I would consider, very stringent on the last applicant, on Antonia with Mr. Steenberg and his work. Here we have a slightly different situation, right? We would actually be starting something here. And so the question is, what is our appetite for, encouraging or starting a subdivision and a further development in now a known, water constrained area?
Well, it seems to me that based on the topographicals that we've been provided and my general familiarity with the site, this is sort of the impact. This is the downstream impact. This 5-acre parcel, having not been developed over the years, is sort of been the one to collect
That's right.
all of the downstream
Yep.
impacts.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah, and I think just honestly, maintenance of that stream that goes through is probably a big part of it.
What on the other side of River Road? What are you dealing with? Are there wetlands to your knowledge? On the
No,
other
not to
side
my
of
knowledge. I
River
mean,
Road?
once you come across at the culvert and hit the river, it drops significantly there. So, I guess question is, when's the last time this was actually cleaned or maintained? I think some of that would help move the flow through this property onto River Road and then release it to the other side, which is what it's my understanding it's designed to. Right?
Is your plan to take a look at that as part of your analysis to see if there's some maintenance that hasn't occurred or something that needs to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of anything has been done there at all through that.
Yeah.
I think it's just over time or naturally, organically, things just infill. And I mean, there's some maintenance that you probably need to relieve some of that stuff through there. I mean, that's just.
So that, just to clarify, the town maintains the culvert. The town has been out there flushing the culvert. It's very low. The road is very low.
Yep.
The town has no ability to maintain this property. It's private property.
Yep.
It's
Right.
entirely private. If the town was to go in there, it would have to be an easement, and it's very, very difficult to maintain. Very difficult.
Yeah,
So it's not a lack of maintenance on the part of the town.
yeah, I'm just asking about on the other side of River
But
Road.
it's not,
where it
it's not
comes
a
out.
yearly maintenance. It's just, again, nothing has, again, whenever this was done in place, we don't know I don't know what the extent of was done for that. I understand you maintain the culvert and all that, but getting the water from Seneca all the way across, I understand it's a private property. But if that is reworked, it moves water through from Seneca to that culvert, is what I'm suggesting.
Are you talking about, which culvert are you talking about, Laura?
So I'll show you.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think you have to do an engineering study
Mhm.
that shows how the water is coming to the parcel, how the water is moving through the parcel, and how the water is exiting.
Yep.
And then you can propose ways that may help. But essentially, like, there's multiple paths for the water to come. Clark did this map. It's pretty good. The yellow arrows are the water coming off of the school property. The red arrow is kind of a water path that's coming off of the town property, and it essentially winds through these wetlands. The Tiberia House is here. It winds through these wetlands, and it crosses the road it's not a perpendicular culvert. It's kind of a funky culvert that then crosses over into the wetlands here. But we've had a lot of internal meetings about this. It's a demonstrated drainage issue problem in the town. And one of the things that we kind of understand is that the elevation on the culvert is such that when there's a lot of water, there's just no place for the water to go. Like, the way that the elevations work, there's nothing that's happening with the water. And the culvert can be clear, clean, and flowing, and the water's still not going anywhere.
It reaches a pond.
Yeah.
in all-
The wetlands.
The
intents
wetlands.
And it's
purposes.
meant to kind of go into the
All
wetlands
levels,
and
see,
slow
it's all
down.
level,
yeah.
And it's meant to slow the water down.
Yeah.
But it's also like the water, there isn't anywhere for
Yeah,
it.
so going back to the original comment that I mentioned among the last things that I said, and maybe this is becoming more of a legal question, right? On the what basis would we be able to entertain an application for a subdivision in an area where historically all departments of the town, public, schools, we know we have a water issue here? Right? Like I said, on the other one over at Rao Road, I just feel like we just, it was 1,000 cuts that got us to the point, and, ultimately Mr. Steenberg solved that, hopefully. But I don't think that gives us a basis or a precedence for doing the exact same thing here again. I think we need to do something better and something different.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just think that, well, this is my first time actually seeing this application tonight, and I haven't even spoken with our water and sewer department, engineering department
Right.
about it. So I don't think that I can give you.
Yeah, no, so
an exact
actually,
answer
so
for
take
you.
what I just said, not more as a question, but just as a problem statement. Thank you.
Yeah, where that, Laura, the left picture there, is that where is the culvert underneath there? Is the water, the other picture we showed, not the picture, the drawing that showed the yellow and the red, where it crosses the road right there. Is that the same location where the water ponds?
I don't think the culvert is actually in the lowest point of the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah,
Here's the,
because there's quite the dip there, and I know that you guys live there, so I took a ride, there's a dip. Yeah. Yeah.
these two. Yeah,
I got you. All right.
this
other
is
end.
where the
I'll try to get down there walking so you see me running
Yeah.
around. It's okay. We'll take obviously the board has the opportunity, anybody take a walk down there and see what's going on.
That's across the street.
But, I think, so you have your work cut out is what you're hearing tonight, right? There's concerns and, you're the engineer, so, you got to take a look at it and,
I guess I would wonder, is if the known issue at the road crossing for the culvert, are you looking for us to make a solution on how to
Well,
mediate
I think
all the
that-
upstream issues?
well, I think at the minimum, you have to start with saying, here's what I propose and here, here's how I'm going to handle any impervious surface or anything that you're doing at a minimum, right? And so that's always the minimum, but obviously we always look to improve the situation, at least if it's an incremental improvement, So
We normally, we do a lot of work in Lake George where there's a net zero increase in runoff in your property. So we do rain gardens and culverts, storage chambers, those type of things. We can certainly do those here to alleviate any of the additional impervious area from the development. And then we can look at what can be done from the outlet of the two culverts at Seneca to the inlet of the 42-inch culvert crossing under River Road and see if there's any improvement that's going to be done in that corridor.
because the thing is too, that, it seems to me, again, it just seems to me that the house, a proposed house on Seneca is a nice location, right? It's a nice street, beautiful homes there and everything. But if you're proposing to build a home there, is that home going to function okay? Are you're looking, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, like Mr. Khan was saying, water issues for that new home as a result of, you're doing your calculations and everything is net zero gain, but there's other issues out there. Is that going to influence, sump pump that runs all the time?
Yeah, I mean, by other issues, Chairman Rock, you mean the increased, higher percentiles of rainfall that we're
Yeah,
actually seeing?
exactly. Just,
right?
other
The-
environmental
the-
factors independent of net zero gain. Is it going to be a desirable location to build a home? I mean, it looks like it'd be a nice spot to build a home, but was it going to function? Whereas River Road, it looks like, there's a home there already, right? There's already some impervious surface. The back of those lots run down and obviously add to the water that's going to be in that wetland, which has to go out across River Road also. So you have to, take a look at that also. So I know your application is for 4 lots, is it too hard to do 4? Is there a number that it makes it reasonable from a cost perspective for you and from a safety and improvement for the neighbors? Is there a balance there? I don't know the answer. I'm just saying, but we're going to look to you to tell us that, if you come in and just say, we're going to do something with this wetland and we're going to pipe the water over and the sump pump is going to discharge over there and it's going to be okay. We're going to need more than that, I think that.
Yeah.
You're the professional.
And I just want to back up what Chairman Walsh is saying with our code, right? So Chapter 189-20, which is the subdivision of land code, has a whole section on drainage improvements 189-20B states that, when you're doing a subdivision, a culvert or other drainage facility shall in each case be large enough to accommodate potential runoff for its entire upstream drainage area, whether inside or outside the development area. And so we already know that that's an issue that needs to be studied by an engineer. And you also have the responsibility for drainage downstream, so that the subdivider's engineer shall also study the effect of each subdivision in the existing downstream drainage facilities. And then to Mr. Khan's point, section D of the same chapter in our subdivision of land talks about land subject to flooding. And so land subject to flooding or lands deemed by the planning board to be uninhabitable shall not be platted for residential occupancy, nor for such other uses as which would increase danger to health, life, or property. So it's really important, I think, to understand the upstream drainage and understand how it's moving through the property by code. You got to understand where the downstream drainage is going, and the planning board has the right to look at whether or not this land is too much subject to flooding.
Yeah, I think Clark,
That section B, is that for new culverts or is that for existing culverts? Because I read it as being new culverts if you were installing a new culvert as part of your project.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just as part of your project, when you're looking at the subdivision, you got to accommodate upstream and downstream drainage.
Okay, just clarifying.
And I think it's relevant to note the standards to which the recent Pulcinelli two-lot subdivision was held. Because it was known to be a problem area as this is. And we really did require it meet pretty strict standards. And that's in the packet.
yeah, take a look at the link online, Karen, get familiar with that. And I know Clark,
Yeah, we weren't forwarded that as a.
It is in the email that Clark sent you. It's just in the thread.
yeah, it was later
Yeah.
today.
It's in the packet that's online.
Yeah, you can just go to the planning board packets and just click on the packet today. It's available to everyone.
Okay. And the other thing, again, not trying to, just being upfront with you, Pulcinelli, and again, there's historic other subdivisions, let's face it, the lots that are left in Niskayuna, it's a desirable area, but the lots are tough. They're getting tough to develop because of water, access, whatever. It's just getting tougher and tougher around here. And we see that all the time. And I know that in most cases, you will put together your analysis, start somewhere, and we'll most likely have to send that out to a town designated engineer at the cost of the developer, to get the review and comment on that. And that's not, again, not picking on you guys, that's what we do. So just be aware of that. We just did that with Mr. Pulcinelli, and if you're working Lake George, I'm sure you're familiar with all that. Okay.
Lake George is very difficult, so.
Yep, I understand. So, you're kicking it off tonight. We know what you want to do. You just got to take the next step to see if it's doable and whether we can get there or not. Okay?
What is so assuming this would be a minor subdivision, we grant, I'm sorry.
Yep.
We grant a preliminary, we would do a preliminary site plan review before the soil tests and the stormwater management plan, or what is the?
I don't know, I guess I need to take a look at the ordinance with the next.
Yeah,
step
so
would be.
minor subdivision is for sketch plan approval. And during sketch plan approval, I don't know if you guys remember, it actually took Pulcinelli a really long time to get through sketch plan approval because you wanted to have some level of comfort that the utilities could work, utilities and drainage. So sketch plan approval, you're allowed to look and make sure that drainage and utilities can work prior to granting sketch plan approval.
And I assume you can, for this new proposed home on the 2.5 acre lot, you can pull from Seneca water, sewer. And then you have existing utilities for
River
the
Road, there's a
River
sewer
Road.
on their side of the street, and then water's on the opposite side.
And you've already got one line T off the main for water for the home that's to be demolished. Now, did you give any consideration to a shared driveway for limiting curb cuts? What, I don't,
Look at it. I mean, I do understand we have to go for the curb cut analysis. It's something that we can look at.
Yeah, I mean, it
To
looks
see,
like that'd be
so.
tough. Yeah.
We generally don't encourage shared driveways.
Yeah.
well, we did that on Antonina, though, I mean, we actually did, we do actually, we did that for
Empire, too.
Empire as well.
Empire has it.
So
Yeah.
I don't want
It's
to, Leslie,
kind
I
of a
don't want
last
to,
resort.
but it's a county road, so I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, because, well, Laura, you'll send it to the county, get some preliminary feedback.
Yeah, we do a county referral on
Yeah, I
all
mean-
subdivisions. Mhm.
I mean, they may come
Can
back
send
and
that
say,
out.
hey, there's houses all along there, this is no different, and there's no issue, or they might say, maybe the driveways are too close or too many.
There's a lot of driveways off of River Road.
Yeah,
so.
and I live over in that area, so I understand that. You know, just trying to throw things out there that will come up, that's all. Just
Yeah,
trying-
no, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I understand there's ups and downs through it. and I deal with it every day as well.
Yep, well, thank you. And like I said, the water going in and coming out, that's the biggie here on this one, you know? Come out to the microphone, please, so we can hear you.
I'm a 30-plus year resident. The house in Seneca would be my personal residence. So if I decided to just build my own personal residence there on one lot, would the town provide me any engineering studies for the water that's impacting my property now?
No, nope. You're allowed to have one home on one lot. There currently is a home. If you choose to take it down and build another home, you're allowed to do that. But that's just an administrative action as a property owner. When you reach subdivision level and you're getting the benefit of having 4 lots instead of 1, that's what triggers the additional regulations.
But so the water that Tiberias are having issues with on
Could you
my
come up to the
property-
microphone, please?
Oh,
You're just
sorry.
hard to hear.
But the same water they're having an issue with that's now impacting my property, how's that going to be mitigated?
I mean, so the water's a current condition that you have to be aware of when you purchase the property. The town does listen to residents' comments. They have had some meetings looking at that. It's something that the town is, exploring, doing an engineering study on. But it's an existing condition and it's part of the land that you purchased.
So but and the study has been done or is being done now?
No, nope, there hasn't been a study. The town has identified it as an issue and the town, it's an existing condition. The town does recognize that with climate change, the storms are probably going to get worse. And so, as one of the worst drainage points in the town, it's something that the town will look at long-term, trying to help. But the existing condition is the existing condition. You could demolish a home and pull a building permit, but the town is under no obligation to provide with any engineering study for that property.
When you say pull a building permit, even at a different location or the location of the existing home to be demolished?
Yeah, Elena can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you could pull a building permit if you remove the home for anywhere that you have legal access to the property. The only other thing that's come up is on this subdivision, like kind of late in the game, we got a purchase and sale agreement, which is good, shows that you're working towards site control, but still not full site control. So we will need the owner of the other parcel to sign the application.
That's not an issue.
Did you want to add anything, Elena?
I don't disagree with you.
So one thing I think I would note that I'm impressed that we got, so far this site plan looks pretty close to the detail we would expect for a minor subdivision sketch plan approval. Obviously, we have to come through this issue of mitigating or at least managing all the downstream impacts from Hawthorne Hill and Iroquois and Hilltop and Rosendale. But you've got the 25-foot wetland buffer there, which I think helps visualize kind of the usable space. You've got your setbacks. It looks like you're proposing 4 code compliant lots. So, on paper, if you take out the obviously elephant in the room of wetland issues, you've got 4 code compliant lots here. One thing I do like to see, though, I think most of us like to see, is your proposed limits of clearing. So we have a pretty good idea of existing site conditions, but it'd be nice to see that as well in a sketch plan. Trying to think of other things that we typically ask for sketch plan. You really, you got your access points, you got your utilities. These buildings, what's the proposed square footage for each residence?
Well,
At
my
ballpark, do you have a
roughly
idea?
3,000 square feet.
Okay.
For all four or just the one on
I don't-
Seneca?
Potentially, maybe. It's preliminary. I mean, my personal residence would probably.
Yeah, well, you'll have to have an idea in order to, do your calculations, right? For your
Right,
impervious
right.
surface,
Yeah,
so.
Right.
yeah, we have conceptual floor plans for 2 of the lots.
Who will be developing the homes?
So,
Myself.
yeah, so Ryan owns the land currently, which is the applicant, and Ryan's looking to put his private residency on one, and I'm looking to purchase the other one, which would be for my sister. So,
Okay. So you're a builder,
so,
He's an architect.
yeah.
the property owner.
Well, me, yes, yeah. I don't build homes. I'm contracted out.
All right.
But I've walked the property with CGM out of Waterford, who's a contractor. So I'm very aware of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done.
Laura, you mentioned which part of this plot is involved in a transaction right now?
If you see this is actually 2 lots that are in this proposal,
Mhm.
and there's like a dotted line that goes like
Yep.
this.
Okay, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, so we just need, like was in our agenda statement, we did receive a purchase and sales agreement, which is a legal, document for the sale, but it actually hasn't closed. And so Elena was able to review it on Friday and wants some additional site control just to make sure that all is proper.
Yeah, and we're just, honestly, there's a title issue just because it's sold, and I honestly wasn't done correctly.
Okay.
So anytime you get the title search, it's just taking a little bit longer than it typically would.
And there's just some other private individual that owns that piece that sold it?
Correct.
It's no one here today, right?
No.
That piece, that's a very strange tax parcel there.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, what would be, I noticed their prior iteration of the plan, you were thinking about maybe pursuing some kind of a setback variance and squeezing a home on that little corner, but you've kind of gone away from that. What would be your intentions with this area, the bend of Seneca on the other side of the wetlands, this isolated, dry area?
We'd have nothing at this time.
Yeah, I think after looking at it with the grade drops and, how close it is to the wetlands, that all essentially is going to reside as it is
Okay.
at that point, so.
Would you consider making that putting some kind of conservation easement on that?
I don't think we'd be opposed to that. I mean, again, I think I have expressed that we're willing to work with the town to try to help, because I think this can be an avenue to mitigate some of those water issues.
It has a potential.
So
Yeah.
it can be turned over in a couple different capacities, so that it can be maintained properly. And again, I know this has been a very wet year, but I understand the water issues in Niskuna. I understand the soil conditions in Niskuna. So we can sit here and say we're going to have, a whole bunch of different type of rainstorms and stuff, and the weather patterns are changing. But I think the way to counteract that is to have infrastructure that you can maintain, because as you go to the other side of River Road, I'm not aware of any water issues on that side. Once it hits that culvert and it goes, it's fine. So I think this could be a piece to help clean up some of that water issues that are coming across onto Seneca now.
I think you're correct that the subdivision could result in improvement. And we have other areas where that has happened.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to be a major focus of the review.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, by definition, if we go forward with it, it's going to have to make things better.
I agree. And we're putting money into the property, so we want it to be better too. So,
Yeah, you want to live there, so.
Yeah.
Right, so you want something that functions and
yep.
works
I
for
agree.
yourself also, so, which we understand.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think you heard it, the concern, obviously water is a concern, and you have your work cut out. when it comes in regards to that. That's the bottom line. It's nice, has good potential, but some work to be done.
Chairman Washer, Laura, maybe you can remind us, when we did Antonia with
Olsenelli.
Brett,
Oh, Brett, yeah.
we had a TDE involved, right?
Yeah.
And it was still during
Right.
sketch plan approval.
Yeah, yep, we can
right?
hire the TDE right away.
Yep.
If you guys want to move forward. And
Yeah, who was the reviewer for that?
it was,
Was it West End?
Yeah,
I
but
think
we
it
have
was
a-
Prime, it was Prime Engineering.
But we have several available to us. I believe Laura goes out for quotes, so.
Yep, there's 3
But,
numbers.
it might be when you get the first submittal, your first cut, maybe that would be appropriate time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My wonderful videographer is reminding everybody to talk into the microphone because she's not being able to catch some things that are happening.
Okay. But I still have my problem statement for the legal department open, right? In terms of how you would even just begin this. Thank you.
All right, anything else?
No, thank you very much.
No, appreciate you coming in and take a look at the packet, okay?
Yeah, well, thank you.
We appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, just one other thing too, if you have any site walk, sooner or later, we'll get down there to do a site walk with you or get permission to do a
Yeah.
walk on our own,
Yeah,
okay?
that'd probably be a good thing.
And a project lead, obviously, this is an important project, so we don't have to answer it now, but you can give me an email if somebody would like to be the point person on this one, to focus with the walks and so on and so forth, okay? Which we always do.
Great.
I know
Yeah,
you're
no, I
familiar,
appreciate it.
and I know you're familiar with
Same.
that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. So that's it for discussion items for tonight. What we have is reports, and first on reports is 1851 Union Street, 1245 Ruffin Road. Mr. Henry wants to give us a review of the seeker process for that average density development, right, Clark?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Chairman Walsh. Laura, if you could just pull up the tracking sheet we've been using.
Do you want me to, the one in the packet, or do we have, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know Clark and I have been working on making this better.
Yeah. There's one line that was added to this compared to the item that's in the packet. And basically, we've continued to receive some inquiries from residents on specifically the Mohawk Club project and what the next step is. So Laura and I thought we would update or give a little refresher on the average density development project flow that's part of the Niskayuna zoning code. I think we've touched on this twice previously, and we'll just give a little update on where we stand. If you remember, with an average density development project, there's really 2 parallel paths. One is the sketch plan, which goes to the planning board, and the second path is the special use permit that is acted on by the town board. So quickly, the sketch plan has proceeded through A through E, and the next step was step F, where typically the planning board acts on a resolution for sketch plan and makes a recommendation to the town board regarding the special use permit. Well, if you probably remember, the planning board did make a recommendation to the town board regarding the special use permit. They actually, you guys actually recommended that the town board deny the special use permit. And that's where that activity stands right now. That path has reached point F. You haven't acted on the sketch plan yet, but you did make a recommendation to the town board on the special use permit. And that's really as far as the special use permit can go right now. So let's jump to the special use permit. So this is in the hands, so to speak, of the town board. The CAC makes a seeker recommendation on the special use permit to the town board, which they've done. The town board, that's where this one is a little different, Laura, from I think what you and I added. The town board makes a seeker determination on the special use permit. So that has happened as well. The town board made their seeker determination on the special use permit. They have 2 rulings they could make. They could either make a negative seeker determination, which means the project would have no adverse environmental impact, or they could make a positive seeker determination, which means it will have or it potentially has an adverse impact on the environment. That's what the town board did. So that sends the special use permit, the whole seeker process, it sends it into another mini process, so to speak, that is involved when a positive seeker determination is made. There's a set of steps that have to be executed. The town board cannot act on the special use permit until the seeker process has run its full course and this new kind of mini process, if you will, is completed. So that's where the special use permit stands right now. The town board made a positive seeker determination, which is sending it into another path of steps that must be done when a positive seeker determination has been made. So that jumps to the next slide we had. And Laura, maybe if you can back up one slide.
Oops, wait a minute, sorry. I put this flow chart up because I actually don't think it's in the packet, the seeker flow chart. Can you see what I have on the screen, Clark? Whoops. That's, oh, there is one?
Flow chart that says basic seeker process
Oh, wait a minute, okay.
on page 94, 95.
All right, I'll go back to that.
Yeah. But doesn't have eggs packet, so.
Oh, it is there, you're right. That was-
What are the eggs all about?
Oh, that's just the seeker cookbook. It's my favorite document ever.
Okay. I thought there was like, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs or something.
If you're ever bored, just read the seeker cookbook on DEC's website. Okay.
Look,
There you go, Clark.
okay. If you could just back up one more slide, please. So just a quick update on the seeker process. The purpose is to incorporate the consideration of environmental factors early into the planning process. So that's the whole purpose of this seeker review. And the intent, the couple that really jump out are to provide a balance of social, economic, and environmental factors in the decision-making process. And the statement that environmental factors should not be the sole considerations in decision-making. So it's really looking at the impact of the project from several different angles. And this is part of the DEC standard information that you can find from their website. And we are referencing what's called the seeker cookbook. So if you could go to the next slide, Laura. So this is the basic seeker process. And that's step one. When a seeker action is required, there are really three types of actions that can be taken. If you look at the top, a type 1 action is a relatively complicated project like a major subdivision, like an average density development project. Those are relatively complicated. Type 2 actions are very straightforward, almost administrative actions, like maybe a simple lot line adjustment where it really has no impact on the land or the property. And then in between, you have unlisted actions. Those are kind of in between a type 1 action and a type 2 action. Maybe something like a minor subdivision would be a type 2 action. Okay. So the average density development project is a type 1 action. You can see at the step 2. So it's been classified as a type 1 action. The applicant has done a full environmental assessment form. That form comes to the CAC, comes to the town, and they do a couple things with that. They select a lead agency, which, because it's an average density development project, which requires a special use permit from the town board becomes the lead agency from the town's perspective. So that's where the town board being the lead agency comes in. And as we just discussed, the town board made a positive seeker determination, as you can see at the top of step 6. So that's where we are, that the town board made that positive seeker determination. Now we enter this little process that must take place when a positive seeker determination has been made. And the first step of that is step 6. It's labeled as step 6 right there. That is a scoping document. So that is exactly where the Mohawk Club stands right now. The applicant and the town actually work together to create a scoping document. Typically, it comes from the applicant first, and the town and the applicant work on the scoping document. From that, and the scoping document is really kind of focusing the items in the environmental assessment led to the positive seeker determination, kind of flushing them out in a little more detail and drafting the scope of what is really driving the positive seeker determination. Once that scoping document is prepared, you can see going forward, that leads to a draft environmental impact study. And eventually, after that environmental impact study, which again is prepared by the applicant and an applicant's engineer, that will come in and it will be reviewed. And eventually at step 9, you see that will go out for public comment. So the public will be able to comment on that environmental impact study. So we don't want to get too far into the weeds, but we just wanted to give a general idea of where the project is and what this flow of a positive seeker determination looks like. So if you go to the last slide, Laura, we'll just show that there's some timelines associated with each of these steps as well. So again, we've color coded them. You can see going up through the yellow, and you see that little green where it says draft scope and then footnote number 2. There's no time frame requirement for the submittal of a scoping document, a draft scoping document. So that's where the Mohawk Club stands right now. There's actually no time constraint on them as to when they would submit this scoping summary. So we just check in every now and then to touch base and see what their thoughts are. But there's really no time frame to when we could expect to see the scoping document. It could go on for some time without being submitted. And then again, this document is just showing the timelines associated with the different steps. Once the town receives a scoping document, if they receive one from the Mohawk Club, the town will have 60 days to provide feedback on that document. So we're just obviously keeping this close at hand and keeping our eyes on this and trying to stay prepared for all the different scenarios that could happen. So I know it's been a long meeting. We just wanted to give a little update because we have had some questions about this, and it's just a good refresher for all of us.
Okay, thank you, Clark. And again, for the public, it's all posted on the website. Take a look at it at your leisure, and all the information's there. Thanks, Clark. All right, that's it for reports. Unless, Laura, you have something you'd like to add?
I don't have anything to add tonight.
And I'll just open it for commission business. Anybody have any questions of the planning department or the attorney?
And it's actually for Clark. Is there any kind of a sunsetting with where that application is right now? Do they have you said that there's no particular time frame, but is there at some point, they can't go 3 years down the road and come back with something. I imagine there's got to be some expiration date.
Yeah, Laura may know that. We have been working with a TDE, a consultant. We can bounce that off of them as well. I don't have an answer to that.
Thank you.
I think one of the things you'd have to watch for is if there's other changes in the vicinity of the project that could affect the project that happened in the meantime, right? If somebody does some construction project or there's an environmental change or something happens, and that would have to go back to the applicant to reevaluate that impact on their proposal. So
Do we have anything in our code that creates a timeline that if they fail to act within a certain period of time on an application, then the application essentially ceases?
I'm not aware of one, but I can double check.
For some reason, I thought we did, but we might
Well,
not.
we definitely have a time limit after approvals. Those are very clear. And there are timeframes that the planning board has to act on within our code, but the planning board has acted. And yeah, I think the guidance that we'll have to get is from the DEC, because in that timeline that Clark just showed, there's 2 points in that timeline that have no time frame required. Both the draft of the scoping document and the draft of the EIS. And we know that these can be very time-consuming processes. In some cases, the drafting of an EIS can take years. But I don't know if there is an ultimate expiration date. It doesn't appear that there is one.
Yeah, just from some other things I'm familiar with, I'm expecting that this is going to be open-ended.
Also, I don't know if it's helpful information, but I spoke with the attorney from Clifton Park who handled the declaratory judgment on the matter that they had in 2017 that I was referring to in reliance on our application here. And he indicated that that was like an 18-month process.
Yeah, and that's for whether or not they're even allowed to use the access points that are platted there.
So they haven't indicated that they want to change their application. So I'm planning on moving forward with that. At some point that changes, we can always withdraw. But there won't be, I don't think, any movement either, because you can't have movement until that's decided.
And that's the Paper Street that we're referring to? Yeah.
So the scoping document process does assume the sketch plan, which included an access strategy, doesn't change. So if they were to change the access based on the feedback of the seeker, positive seeker, does it go back through this whole process again?
Yeah, if they were to change the access, they're changing the plan that you guys made recommendations on, as well as the CAC. So that kicks it back to review and determination.
Even though the town board's the lead agent, but they're a lead agent on the existing sketch plan under this.
They're the
Got
lead
it.
agent, but if the sketch plan changes, then you go back, I don't want to say necessarily like to the drawing board, but pretty close to the drawing board.
Goes back to.
Especially for access, because that's going to significantly change that proposal.
And always hopefully improve things. All right.
Regarding the gentleman who spoke during privilege of the floor, who's got the through lot issue, has he considered or explored the possibility of just deeding a sliver of land along the crosstown to create a rear property line?
I think that's what he was actually talking about. The planning board didn't think that was ideal because it makes a weird looking parcel where people don't really understand the parcel lines, but it does protect the property owner who's looking for the lot line adjustment from having 2 front yards.
And it prevents, I mean, there's never going to be a curb cut there, right?
No, but, and this is kind of what Elena and I have talked and looked about a lot, is that our code literally defines frontage as property along a right of way. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of wiggle room for whether or not you actually have access to the right of way or not. Like, you have frontage if it's a paper street that could never be built across a lake. You have frontage if it's on the crosstown connection that you could never access. It's still considered frontage in our code.
But what good is, I mean,
It's no
what
good.
good is that frontage?
It's no good. But having been a member of the zoning board, you understand that that's sort of a perfect argument
Right.
for relief from the zoning code.
Well, right, he could
Yeah,
just pursue.
But unfortunately,
that.
like, we
He
can't
doesn't.
say you don't have frontage. Like, the zoning board has to say that.
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
Aside from that, the state right-of-way extends, what, 40 feet? So in terms of putting anything in there, it's not even going to be up to the town. The state's going to say no.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't often say this to applicants. I mean, they have a very convincing case for a unique lot that has a burden from our code with 2 front yards. And I think that they could regularly take anything to the zoning board and probably have a good chance of getting a variance. Unfortunately, everything that they do in their backyard would require going to the zoning board because it's always going to have 2 frontages.
Can we, I mean, can we make a recommendation on that for him?
Yeah, we would.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I was just going to say, we mentioned it when he was here before, that in general, we understand the situation, and we would most likely give a positive recommendation to the zoning board of appeals. I think we said that, right?
Did that kind of go?
No, I think he, it's his prerogative whether he wants to go, and it sounds like he doesn't want to go for some reason. I mean, that's the bottom line.
I guess that's what we're waiting for, right? There doesn't seem to be a willingness from the applicant to actually go to the ZBA.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. He doesn't seem to want to go.
But I mean, could we, to move this along and take it out of privilege of the floor comments, if we put it on the agenda and we make a recommendation?
He's got to file
Yes,
He hasn't even made the application?
Right.
Okay,
that's the issue.
Yeah.
so, okay.
So what he's saying, asking tonight
Got
is,
it.
I want to provide a strip of land so my lot doesn't have two front yards, and how wide does that need to be? Whether it's, is it 20 feet, 10 feet, whatever,
And so you think he's aware that he needs to make a formal application?
Yes.
He is. Okay, all right, well then.
And then if he does that, and he's going to come back to us, now, one thing that we're going to have to resolve is, our usual stance about an irregular shaped lot. So we're in a little bit of a do loop there. So we're going to have to say, Uncle, okay, this is a special situation and it's okay. And then he doesn't have to go to ZBA and we can proceed, right?
The applicant already has the double frontage.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
He's trying to give his neighbor, well, I don't know if there's
Yeah.
money involved or not, but the idea was to make the lots more regular and give his neighbor more
Yeah.
backyard.
Yeah, he was here in front of
Except
us.
it's going to be front yard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, he came to the board, as you know, so we've
Yeah.
heard all that, and we said that we would look favorably upon, the situation for the zoning board of appeals, but if he doesn't want to go, I guess that's,
He has actually maintained a nice wooded area along the Troy Road part. It is surprisingly peaceful in his backyard.
Look, Laura, can you explain better why if he conveyed 10 feet to the town,
Oh, not to the
you
town.
can't do that. So he would be creating a separate parcel, and
no,
that parcel would be
or
irregular.
he would
They
keep,
don't have
Keep
this.
the sliver.
he would keep
Yeah,
the
he would
part
just
of it.
keep a sliver.
Yeah,
He
instead
would
of,
keep it only separated into two lots.
Right. So instead of having the two lots both be like a perfect half, where they both have frontage on Union and
Yep.
Balltown.
He wants to push it to the very end.
Yeah. So right now, the lot line adjustment, the other person that hasn't come, he currently has kind of a carve out. So like there's an L-shaped lot, right? You have the lot
No, I
of
get-
Mr. Foreman
yep.
that goes around. He could extend his back, but not all the way to Route 7.
Right.
Yeah.
so,
What's wrong with that?
It's an irregularly shaped lot.
But couldn't we certainly justify an exception in this case? And don't we have tons of those through?
yeah, we might be able to, but
Yeah,
he hasn't come
Yeah,
back
from
in
my
front of us.
application.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
from-
hasn't come
From my
back.
perspective,
I thought
I'd
it
like
was
to
the
see an
application
application, yeah.
only. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what when we originally came, we said we wanted regular shaped lots, and that's why he
That's
went off.
what he had proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if he comes back, yeah.
The fact that it'll create double frontage for the neighbor is the issue.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it's a non-issue because DOT
I
has
get
a
it.
40-foot right-of-way that's going to prevent him from putting anything back all the way anyway.
But the future landowners will have to come
It'd
to
be a
zoning
minor
every time they
variance,
do
and I
it.
don't think, I can't speak for the ZBA, obviously, but I can't imagine they'd have a big issue with something that's at least 40 feet off Troy Road.
So they probably wouldn't. But the issue is that anytime you're ever doing an accessory structure or anything
have to
like that,
present
you
it.
would
You
have to go to the zoning board.
Right.
So your building permit process would take long and it'd be an extra $100 unless the fees go up
And you-
every time you did something in your rear.
And you have some existing structures that would become non-compliant.
That
Yeah,
makes more
that's true.
sense.
Hmm.
than-
It's true. It definitely
He
makes
doesn't
more
have the
sense.
space to do a whole lot now.
Yeah.
He needs the extra.
What's the fee for the application in the zoning board?
Right now for residential, it's 100.
No,
The town does adjust the fees over time though.
yeah, so it's his call, and he sounded like he was going to contact the planning office and Ms. Gold to see
He has,
how big of a strip, he just said tonight that he was going.
He wanted to do a strip. That's what he
Yeah.
said tonight. Yeah.
I have a really stupid question. So when he came to us initially to present this, did he not need an application or was he just?
That was application for the planning department for site plan review or lot line adjustment. the application for zoning board of appeals is a different application.
Right, but if he initially had an application to come before us, which is what he had, correct?
Yeah,
We couldn't,
no, that's not our application.
We can't
It's a different
direct him.
application.
It gets denied. So he submitted a lot line adjustment, but he can't complete the lot line adjustment as proposed without relief from the zoning board of appeals
Yeah.
because of the frontage.
okay.
And he hasn't done that.
So that
And
application
I
was
don't know-
denied.
And I don't know if it's that he doesn't want to do it or if he's talked with the neighbor
In the
who's going to be
neighborhood.
getting the additional area, and the neighbor doesn't want it. But to me,
So
just go ahead and come in with it. If
Yeah, exactly. Just come in and get it
It's
done.
their decision, it's not ours.
But if he wanted to submit a application where he retains a sliver of land along Route 7, my suggestion would be that it should not be like 2 feet. It should probably be more like 20.
Yeah, something realistic, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's all landscape buffered now.
It's all landscape buffer now. Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be measurable, you know.
It should be measurable so
Yeah.
that it's understandable and you can read it on a plat and it's clear.
But being a realtor's daughter, it's just.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
And it's enough to have that little strip of land owned by your neighbor that's right there, and you can't do anything.
Yeah,
You can't really legally set foot on it without the neighbor's permission.
Yep.
That would drive me nuts.
Yep.
And that, a lot of people looking at homes feel the same way. So to me, it would just make sense to go ahead. And yeah, the guy's gonna have the double frontage as well, and,
yeah. All right,
but it's their decision.
their
not ours.
decision. It sounds like you'll contact Laura.
Mhm.
You guys,
And the only advantage I think to like a 20-foot buffer is that if it's maintained by the larger property, theoretically, it would always stay a buffer. And then that other lot could, expand
Well-
its thing, whatever. But
I was gonna ask if we could require to stay a buffer anyway.
I don't know. For a lot line adjustment, we could.
I was figuring that would be a question for our attorney, but I
okay,
think it's very desirable there. I think it would protect both properties.
So lot line adjustments used to be able to happen without planning board approval. But recently
Yeah.
the county said, hey, sometimes you're making non-conforming parcels here. You got to stop. It's got to be signed off on by the planning board.
Yeah.
So they
it
do-
used to be the assessor did it.
Yeah, so they do have a lower level of review by the planning board.
okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, motion to adjourn. And second by Ms. Strang. All those. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Think about project lead for Seneca.
I know.